263.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Supervisors meeting of April 21st, 2015. Also, I'd just like to announce, now that the chamber is full, we do have an overflow room in room 263 where you can watch today's proceedings. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Thank you, Madam President. Supervisor Avalos. Avalos present. President Breed.
Here.
Breed present. Supervisor Campos.
Present.
Campos present. Supervisor Christensen.
Present.
Christensen present. Supervisor Cohen. Cohen present. Supervisor Farrell. Farrell present. Supervisor Kim. Kim not present. Supervisor Marr.
Here.
Marr present. Supervisor Tang. Tang present. Supervisor Wiener.
Present.
Wiener present. Supervisor Yee. Yee not present. Madam President, you have a quorum.
Ladies and gentlemen, can you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, colleagues, Madam Clerk, are there any communications?
I have no communications, Madam President.
Okay, colleagues, are there any changes to the March 31st board meeting minutes? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes after public comment? Motioned by Supervisor Marr, seconded by Supervisor Kim. Those meetings can be approved without objection after public comment. Madam Clerk, can you please read the consent agenda?
Madam President, since there are no items, I'll read item number 1, which is an ordinance to authorize settlement of the lawsuit filed by Kimberly Touye against the city for $125,000, filed on March 24th, 2014 in California Superior Court.
Okay, can you please call the roll?
On item 1, Supervisor Christensen.
Aye.
Christensen, aye. Supervisor Cohen. Cohen, aye. Supervisor Farrell. Farrell, aye. Supervisor Kim. Kim, aye. Supervisor Marr.
Aye.
Marr, aye. Supervisor Tang.
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Wiener.
Aye.
Wiener, aye. Supervisor Yee. Yee, aye. Supervisor Avalos. Avalos, aye. Supervisor Breed.
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Campos.
Aye.
Campos, aye. There are 11 ayes.
This ordinance is finally passed unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
Item 2 is an ordinance amending the building administrative planning and police codes to require attenuation of exterior noise for the new residential structure, acoustical analysis, and in some circumstances field testing, to authorize the Entertainment Commission to hold a hearing on a proposed residential use near a place of entertainment and require the project sponsor to participate, to authorize the Commission to measure noise conditions and provide comments and recommendations to the Planning Department and the Department of Building Inspection, to require the disclosure to lessees and purchasers of potential noise and other inconveniences associated with nearby places of entertainment, and to require the Planning Department and the Commission to consider noise issues when reviewing proposed residential projects, and to specify factors concerning noise for the Entertainment Commission to review when considering granting a place of entertainment permit and making the required findings.
Colleagues, last week I asked that we continue this item for 1 week. We are just finishing up some final technical amendments to this item, which we expect will be available at the end of this meeting. So I'd like to continue this item to closer to the end of the agenda. Once those amendments are brought before us, then we can revisit this item at that time. So are there any objections? Supervisor Kim? Okay. Seeing no objections, we will move this item to later on in today's agenda. Item number 3, Madam Clerk.
Item 3 is an ordinance to designate the R.L. Goldberg Building at 182 through 198 Goff Street as a landmark under Planning Code Article 10 and making the required findings.
Okay, colleagues, I'm excited to ask for a 1-week continuance on item number 3. We have a real special treat for you and members of the public. Once this second reading is done and this item is approved, we hope to see an incredible display of a mousetrap right here in City Hall, and I'm looking forward to that. So with that, can I have a motion to continue this item 1 week? Motioned by Supervisor Cohen, seconded by Supervisor Marr. Without objection, this item is continued to 1 week and to the meeting of
May 12th, Madam President.
May 12th, 2015. Madam Clerk, can you please read item number 4?
Item 4 is an ordinance to amend the administrative code to modify the rental payment differential and to regulate relocation payments to evicted tenants.
Okay. Colleagues, can we take this item same house, same call? Without objection, this ordinance is finally passed unanimously. Madam Clerk, can you call item number 5?
Item 5, resolution to authorize the Department of Real Estate to enter into 2 lease agreements with the Robert J. Court Marital Trust.
Same house, same call. Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Item number 6.
Item 6, resolution to approve the fiscal year 2015-16 Community Development Block Grant Program and to authorize the mayor to apply for, accept, and expend the city's program entitlement from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, and to authorize expending program income and reprogrammed funds for a combined total amount of approximately $19.6 million.
Same house, same call. Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Item number 7, please.
Item 7, resolution to approve the fiscal year 2015-16 Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS program and to authorize the mayor to apply for, accept, and expend the city's program entitlements from HUD and to authorize expending program income, reprogrammed funds for a combined total of approximately $7.6 from July 1st, 2015 through June 30th, 2020.
Same house, same call. Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Item number 8, please.
Item 8, resolution to approve the fiscal year 15-16 Home Investment Partnership Program to authorize the mayor to apply for, accept, and expend the city's entitlement from HUD and to authorize expended program income funds for a combined total of $5.8 million for the term of July 1st, 2015 through June 30th, 2020.
Same house, same call. Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Item number 9, please.
Item 9, resolution to approve the fiscal year 2015-16 Emergency Solutions Grant Program and to authorize the mayor to apply for, accept, and expend the city's entitlement from HUD in the approximate amount of $1.5 million for an unspecified period beginning July 1st, 2015.
Same house, same call. Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Item 10, please.
Item 10, resolution to authorize the mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development to accept and expend a $2 million grant from the California Department of Housing and Community Development Local Housing Trust Fund Program.
Same house, same call. Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Item 11, please.
Item 11 is a resolution to approve, for purposes of the Internal Revenue Code, Section 147F, the issuance and sale of revenue obligations by the California Enterprise Development Authority in the amount of $25 million to finance or refinance the acquisition, construction, installation, rehabilitation, equipping, and or furnishing of K-12 educational facilities to be owned and operated or leased and operated by the Urban School of San Francisco.
Same house, same call. Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Item 12, please.
Item 12, resolution to authorize the general manager of the Recreation and Park Department to execute a 15-year lease with Glen Ridge Nursery School for the Silver Tree Building in Glen Canyon Park for an initial annual base rent of approximately $26,000 and rent credits of up to $25,000 following completion of roof replacement for the term of June 6, 2015 through June 5, 2030.
Supervisor Wiener.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm really excited that this is before us today. This resolution would allow the Rec and Park Department to execute a 15-year lease with the Glen Ridge Nursery School at the Silver Tree Building in Glen Canyon Park. For those who haven't been there before, and I believe Supervisor Avalos, one of his children, went there, if I'm not mistaken, Glen Ridge is a really terrific nonprofit co-op nursery school with tremendous community and parental support, and it's operated in the Silver Tree Building for the last 45 years. Glen Ridge wants to remain in this building, which needs a lot of work. The building is aging and it needs help. The Glen Ridge parent community stepped up and has raised over $40,000 for a new roof for Silver Tree, which will serve both the school as well as Rec and Park's Silver Tree Day Camp during the summer that also operates there. With this significant commitment, the parents requested a longer lease than the standard 5-year lease, so the department worked to put together this 15-year lease for the school. I want to thank Rec and Park for working with the school community to ensure that this great community organization will continue to serve so many families. I'm very happy to support Glenridge in this agreement. And in fact, I believe there are some Glenridge parents here today, and I want to thank them for their commitment to the school and to our city. And colleagues, I request your support.
Thank you, Supervisor Wiener. Seeing no other names on the roster, colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, can you call item number 13, please?
Item 13 is a resolution to exempt from the competitive bidding policy set forth in Administrative Code Section 2.6-1 the potential real estate transaction involving port property at seawall lots 324 and 323 with Teatro Zinzani and financial partner Kenwood Investments operating together as TZK Broadway for development of a dinner theater and maximum 200-room, 40-foot boutique hotel and an approximate 7,500 square foot privately financed public park and ancillary use.
Supervisor Kim.
Thank you, President Breed. I want to clarify my dissenting vote at Land Use Committee on this proposal, and just want to first clarify for the public that I do support the proposal in and of itself of a 200-room, 40-foot boutique hotel with a dinner theater that would include Teatro Zinzani, along with a privately financed public park. What was, however, before the Land Use Committee was not the proposal in and of itself, which clearly had solid and unified support from the neighborhood and the community at large, but was the sole source waiver. The proposal in itself is a good one. It will activate the Broadway corridor, which I know is very important to Supervisor Christensen, bring in tourism, support small business, and of course I think the development partner did an incredible job of doing outreach along with the port to make sure that what they were building was along the lines of the vision of what the larger neighborhood would like to see. The questions that I brought up at Land Use Committee, however, was on the process by which we got to a sole source waiver. And I just wanted to have a better understanding through discussions with the port on how the set of criteria that is used when you decide to give a development a sole source waiver, an RFQ or an RFP, and also just have an understanding of the history of all previous proposals and developments on the port. The port did work with our office. We got a good list, and I have a better understanding of how this process works. I do think sole source waivers always deserves additional scrutiny. Because we're not just talking about a sole source for Teatro Zinzani, who we displaced and therefore should get a site on the port property, but we're of course talking about a significant development, which includes a 200-room hotel as well. We were able to work with the port on a series of amendments, which I'd like to introduce to the record today, to clarify bringing some consistency into the process, including requiring TZ to fill out an RFQ, as would normally happen if it was an RFQ process, and also to require the port, which they have agreed to hire a third-party real estate economic consultant during negotiations with TZK to ensure that the port receives fair market value for the lease of seawall lot 324, 323. I also want to recognize Supervisor Christensen's office as well, who supports this amendment and I know supports the proposal, and I want to make sure that we're in alignment with their office as this development is in their district. And then one final note, which is that this might have gone through the Budget Committee and not Land Use Committee, because what was before us was not the land use issues, but the sole source issues. And a question to the City Attorney, do I need to read all of the amendments into the record, or was my description adequate?
Deputy City Attorney John Gibner, your description was adequate. If you circulate a copy to the clerk, that will do the job.
Great. We will do that. I do want to thank all the members of the public that came to land use. There was clearly a lot of support for this proposal that was very unified, and a lot of work on the part of the developer and the port to get us to that point.
Thank you, Supervisor Kim. Supervisor Wiener.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I'm very supportive of this. I was happy to support this item in committee. I thought what came before us was made a lot of sense, and I had hoped that it would be unanimous in committee. It was not, and I'm glad to see that perhaps it'll be unanimous today, because this really is an amazing project for an amazing institution. that I really was astounded to see the level of unanimity both at the Land Use Committee hearing, but also in the emails we've been receiving. I've not seen a single negative comment about this project. And I think that speaks volumes about the work that the Port has done, the work that Teatro Zinzani has done, the work that the project sponsor has done to move this project to a point where it is completely and utterly non-controversial. But we know what this will contribute to our city. We are really struggling to keep our artistic community together and alive and thriving in San Francisco with the cost of housing, with some of the many pressures that the artistic community is under. And so when we have an opportunity to lock in a home for an organization like Teatro Zinzani, that's not something that you take lightly. It's something that you really embrace, and we need to embrace this. And I think this is so important for the community. It's so important for arts in our city, and I am proud to continue to support this today.
Thank you, Supervisor Wiener. Supervisor Marr.
Thank you. I wanted to first thank Teatro Zinzani and Ken Wood for really engaging the community, building up so much support from community leaders, from the Telegraph Hill dwellers to many folks that have been watching very carefully the community interest in the development along the Embarcadero waterfront. I wanted to thank Supervisor Kim and Christensen for the amendments that I think make it a much stronger proposal. I look back to 2010, 5 years ago, as the Northeast waterfront communities developed with the Asian neighborhood design, Fernando Marti and others, the Northeast Waterfront Community Plan, a comprehensive neighborhood planning process, looking at heights, open space, really focusing on people and place, harmonious socioeconomic and ethnically diverse waterfront activities and community recreational activities as well. But I think as affordable housing is built along Broadway and Embarcadero and the gateway to Chinatown and North Beach, that it's a great spot that can help enhance that diverse socioeconomic waterfront. I wanted to also just say that I think it's a great project. Local 2 hotel and restaurant workers have weighed in support, and many community-based organizations and leaders, but I think it's a great win-win for the communities, really in the spirit of that kind of community planning that went forward about 5 years ago in Supervisor Christensen's district. So I'm very, very pleased about the amendments and the proposal before us.
Thank you, Supervisor Marr. Supervisor Christensen.
All right. I thank my colleagues for doing my job for me today. It's delightful. Let's just take note. This is a District 3 project that seems to have universal support. And I'm delighted because it's a worthy one. I think our district is offering the city at large a wonderful entertainment venue for Broadway and for the adjacent North Beach, Chinatown, and Barbary Coast neighborhoods. It is a significant development, and then it offers a gateway to that neighborhood and will hopefully bring the type of benign crowds that can benefit our local restaurants and merchants. So I'm very grateful to the Port for their work on this, and to Teatro Zinzani and Kenwood Investments for doing such a good job of doing their homework and making this a project that the neighborhood could embrace. And I appreciate the support of my colleagues as our district moves forward with a wonderful new project.
Thank you. Seeing no other names on the roster, Supervisor Kim, that was a motion to move these amendments forward. So there was a motion to move these amendments forward as presented by Supervisor Kim. Is there a second? Seconded by Supervisor Christensen. So can we take those amendments without objection? Without objection, those amendments are passed. And on the underlying item, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
On item 13 as amended, Supervisor Christensen?
Aye.
Christensen, aye. Supervisor Cohen?
Aye.
Cohen, aye. Supervisor Farrell? Farrell, aye. Supervisor Kim? Kim, aye. Supervisor Marr?
Aye.
Marr, aye. Supervisor Tang?
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Wiener?
Aye.
Wiener, aye. Supervisor Yee? Aye. Yee, aye. Supervisor Avalos?
Aye.
Avalos, aye. Supervisor Breed?
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Campos?
Aye.
Campos, aye. There are 11 ayes.
This resolution is adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, can you please call item number It's adopted unanimously as amended. Madam Clerk, can you please call item number 14?
Item 14, resolution to grant revocable permission to the Arts Commission to occupy a portion of the public right-of-way to construct and maintain a new concrete entry stairway with illuminated handrails, an accessible ramp, and other related improvements at the Newcomb Avenue frontage of 4705 3rd Street, and affirming the Planning Department's CEQA determination and making the requisite findings.
Colleagues, can we take this resolution, same house, same call? Without objection, this resolution is adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, can you... actually, everybody, could you please exit the chamber quietly? We still have business to conduct. Thank you for being here today. Madam Clerk, can you call item number 15?
Item 15 is a motion to appoint Patrina Hall, term ending February 23, 2017, to the Citizens Committee on Community Development.
Colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? This motion is adopted unanimously. Item number 16, please.
Item 16, motion to appoint Sam Panday, term ending January 31, 2016, to the Veterans Affairs Commission.
Same house, same call. Without objection, this motion is approved unanimously. Item number
17.
17.
Item 17 was considered by the Land Use and Transportation Committee at a regular meeting on Monday, May 4th, and was forwarded as a committee report. It's a resolution to impose interim zoning controls to reinstate the conditional use authorization requirement for medical cannabis dispensaries in the Irving, Judah, Noriega, and Taraval Street neighborhood commercial districts, and to impose additional conditional use authorization criteria and make the requisite findings.
Colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same... Oh, Supervisor Tang.
Thank you. Thank you, President Breed. I just wanted to explain what this interim zoning control is here in place for. Basically, back a couple years ago, we had worked on legislation to change or to create four neighborhood commercial districts in District 4. That would be the Irving, Judah, Noriega, and Taraval Street NCDs. Part of that creation said that we would need to have an active ground floor use, and if there was no active ground floor use, then it would require a conditional use permit process. Then recently, the Board of Supervisors passed code cleanup legislation that was about 500 pages long, and in it changed some definitions that unfortunately also unintentionally changed the zoning that we had put in place, specifically in regards to District 4. In particular, regarding medical cannabis dispensaries, they moved from non-active ground floor use to now an active ground floor use, given the new requirements for ground floor transparency. And so this legislation is really just to correct that mistake that had come about, given the code cleanup legislation that this board passed recently. And again, this only applies to District 4. So I thank Land Use for their support and ask for the rest of my colleagues to support this as well.
Thank you, Supervisor Tang. Supervisor Avalos.
Thank you. I understand where these zoning controls come from, and typically I would like to defer to the supervisor for the district, but I think that across San Francisco, how MCDs are cited are not done in a way that works for the entire city. We have kind of a piecemeal approach to it, especially how the green zone is created. It really the green zone, when it was legislated in 2005, MCDs are concentrated on the eastern side of San Francisco and fewer on the west side. I have been trying to assert that our MCDs should be available to provide access for people seeking medical marijuana, and I haven't proposed an outright ban in District 11, which many of my residents have called for. I did establish conditional use controls for new MCDs only when they're actually being proposed within 500 feet of an existing MCD. So I wasn't looking to create an outright strong hurdle against MCDs that a conditional use does provide. And so what I was looking at doing, and I had the planning department study the issue, is how we can actually recreate our laws zoning or governing how MCDs can be sited all across San Francisco so that we don't see the concentration and the clustering of MCDs in certain neighborhoods. Currently, there aren't any MCDs, I believe, in the Sunset District. I know there's some that are being proposed there, but having a conditional use, that's the first hurdle for any MCD to start. It makes it so that MCDs can only get cited in other neighborhoods, like on the east side, which is the current problem that we have. So I don't think that this... I understand how a neighborhood may want to put conditional use controls for medical cannabis, but I understand. But they also have impacts on the rest of San Francisco as well. People who are seeking access to medical cannabis in the Sunset may be coming down to District 11 or to Ocean Avenue, where there are MCDs, or they could be going to the Richmond, where there are MCDs, or other parts of San Francisco. And I don't think we've actually been able to really address the overall need to providing access and some control across San Francisco for MCDs in the city. And so I will be voting against this legislation. I would like to work with the supervisor in the future about how we can actually create a policy that works for all of San Francisco and not have a piecemeal approach, neighborhood by neighborhood. And I realize, again, that I have actually contributed to a neighborhood approach, but my first take on MCDs is that we don't have a ban in District 11, or we don't have conditional use on the first application. It's only when an application comes within 500 feet of an existing MCD, so that, therefore we're still creating that access. But it's I understand where this legislation comes from, because there are very active parts of our communities that are not comfortable with MCDs. But I think as a policy for the city, we've stood up to actually allow for access to happen. I want to make sure that we continue to do that and don't set a wrong precedent for San Francisco moving forward. So I will be voting against the legislation, though I understand where this legislation comes from.
Thank you, Supervisor Avalos. Supervisor Tang.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Avalos, for your comments. I think that the points you raised really address a larger issue that this legislation is actually not trying to get at. There was legislation passed, not by myself, but from a predecessor that had certain controls in place. And so really, this is just to correct that, the unintended consequences of legislation, the code cleanup legislation. So this CU, as we all know, does not necessarily preclude an MCD from coming into the neighborhood. I am just trying to restore it to the controls that a previous supervisor had wanted in this district.
Okay, with that, and seeing no other names on the roster, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
On item 17, Supervisor Christensen.
Aye.
Christensen, aye. Supervisor Cohen.
Aye.
Cohen, aye. Supervisor Farrell. Farrell, aye. Supervisor Kim. Kim, aye. Supervisor Marr.
No.
Marr, no. Supervisor Tang.
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Wiener.
Aye.
Wiener, aye. Supervisor Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Avalos.
No.
Avalos, no. Supervisor Breed.
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Campos.
Aye.
Campos, aye. There are 9 ayes and 2 noes, with the noes being Supervisor Marr and Supervisor Avalos.
This resolution is adopted. Before we go to roll call, I'd like to acknowledge that former Supervisor Christina Olagi is joining us in the audience today. Welcome. I wanted to welcome her today. Thank you for being here. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to roll call, and we're going to start off on roll call with Supervisor Campos.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Colleagues, today is Cinco de Mayo. Happy Cinco de Mayo. Cinco de Mayo, it's a day that we in this country of Latin American descent, that we remember what happened in Mexico when Mexico fought back against the French, who at the time were trying to apply economic and military pressure to that country, which at the time was a very young country that had just won its freedom from Spain. Under-resourced and vastly outnumbered, the heart and soul of the Mexican people prevailed in the Battle of Puebla. And this was a turning point for the Mexican people fighting back oppression. It's a day that has become a symbol of pride, not only for Mexican Americans, but for all Latinos in this country. And I say that as someone who is Latino, but is not of Mexican descent. And so it is only fitting that today, on this very important day, I am here to introduce an interim urgency ordinance to establish a moratorium on all market rate housing in the Mission for the next 45 days. And there's a lot of passion here, and what I want to say is that this is a very personal issue, because for so many of us, so many residents of this community, this is a community that is under siege. We have lost more than 1,600 low to moderate income households from the Mission since the year 2000. During this time, we have lost 10,000 people, 10,000 residents in the Mission, 8,000 of them Latinos. That has brought the percentage of Latinos living in this neighborhood from 52% to 40%. If you look at what's happened in terms of development in this neighborhood, there has only been one new affordable housing development in this neighborhood in the last decade. The last affordable housing development in the Mission was completed in 2009, 6 years ago, and prior to that, only 14 new units of public housing were included at Valencia Gardens in 2006. That is all the affordable housing that has been built. In the planning department's pipeline right now, there are 478 units that are approved for construction and another 829 units that have filed for approval. If all of those projects go forward, only 7% of the units that are approved by this city will be below market rate because developers are paying in lieu fees instead of building affordable units on site. That means that 93% of the housing that will be built in the Mission will be luxury housing. This is truly a state of emergency. The Eastern Neighborhoods Plan that we passed in 2008 doubled the amount of residential development potential in San Francisco's formerly industrial areas. But at the time, the intent of Eastern Neighborhoods would be to double that for the purpose of actually building affordable housing in this neighborhood. That plan has failed the Mission. The Eastern Neighborhoods Plan is not working. Despite so much residential construction, our working people, seniors, youth, and families are being displaced, and the prices keep going up. A median price home costs more than $1 million, and a median price apartment costs more than $3,000 a month. There is a bright line of hope, though, that is shining through. I have never, since I became a supervisor, seen our community so united. People that perhaps at times were on opposite sides on issues have come together to say enough is enough. And they are not working in isolation. This community in my office is actually working with the mayor's office, with the Mayor's Office of Workforce and Economic Development, with the Planning Department, to start a new housing plan for the Mission. The city itself, including the Mayor's Office and the Planning Department, in so doing have acknowledged that we need a new housing plan for this neighborhood. Colleagues, we need to acknowledge that the Eastern Neighborhoods plan is out of date. We need to acknowledge that it has failed, and it is time to put up a temporary stop to market rate development so that our community can plan, and so that as we plan, the limited land that is available to build affordable housing on is not taken up by more luxury housing development. We know that we have to build at least 2,500 affordable housing units by the year 2020 in this neighborhood. And that's just, by the way, to simply make up for the displacement that has already occurred. This is not to increase diversity or to help people who have been pushed out come back to the neighborhood. And we don't have a plan for building that housing. It is a crisis, and we need to respond like it is a crisis. This is why I am introducing this interim urgency ordinance to you today. And let me say this, that I have not done this before, but I will be also asking this board that instead of sending this item to committee, I believe that this issue is so pressing, that the crisis is so urgent, that we need to hear this collectively as a committee of the whole, that the entire Board of Supervisors needs to hear from the community. And I will be introducing a motion so that this discussion can be had by the entirety of this board. I want to take this opportunity to thank the community that has been working with me for so long to make this happen. I want to thank the tenants who have shared their stories, the parents, the kids who have talked about the very personal struggles. I want to thank all the people who have shared how difficult it is. I want to thank my colleagues on the Board of Supervisors who have signed on to be co-sponsors of this measure. Their co-sponsorship means a great deal to me, to Supervisor Marr, Supervisor Kim, Supervisor Avalos, and Supervisor Yee. I will end with one note. If I have learned anything in my tenure as a supervisor, is that every district is unique. That we as supervisors, each and every one of us, knows the challenges that our districts face. And that one of the most important aspects of district elections is that it provides individual supervisors the ability to represent the interests of their respective districts, and that we collectively and as individuals have historically given deference when a district supervisor comes to this body and says, there is something happening in my district, something unique that requires a unique response. It is in that spirit that today I'm here to tell you something that I have never said before as a supervisor for this district. My district is in crisis. In this crisis requires that the Board of Supervisors, that the Mayor's office give this community the tools it needs to have a fighting chance to stay in San Francisco. Lastly, I want to thank my staff, my Chief of Staff, Hillary Ronan, my legislative aides, Joseph Smook and Carolyn Goosen, who have been working around the clock, to the City Attorney's Office, who has been working with us on this for the last few days. I don't know that people have gotten much sleep, but it is the nature of this urgency that requires that we act boldly. I look forward, colleagues, to a conversation, to a debate, and I can tell you that in the end, I know that you will hear what we have to say. You will hear this community, and it's a community in pain, but it's also a community that believes in San Francisco, that believes in the promise that this city has meant to so many of us. We came to San Francisco because we, from all walks of life, believe that in San Francisco we could be ourselves. And the mission represents the very best of San Francisco. We are fighting for the soul of the mission. And in so doing, we're really fighting for the soul of San Francisco. Let's keep low-income, working people, middle-income people in the mission. Because at the end of the day, the mission cannot be the mission without its people. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Campos. Back to the flow for roll call. Supervisor Christensen.
So as Supervisor Campos mentioned, all of our districts are facing housing crisis, each in their own way. In my district, where nearly all of the buildings, I think it's 95%, have been in place for 40, 50 years or more, we are not as plagued by an influx of new housing, which we embrace where we can find place for it, but rather at the loss of our existing housing. We are attempting to create new housing, but we also need to preserve and protect what we have. For the latter, eviction notices, 3-day notices, and buyout offers are required to be filed with the Rent Board, and the city does fund eviction defense programs, small site acquisition, and has other tenant resources, which we've been happy to be able to offer to our residents who are in danger of being displaced. But we find that most of our residents don't know their options and are often frightened into accepting buyout offers or giving up their rent-controlled housing because they are not connected with resources and information that could protect them. Today, a small step, I'm introducing a resolution urging the Mayor's Office to convene a working group of the Rent Board, the Mayor's Office of Housing, and of Community Development to develop an eviction alert system to notify the Mayor's Office of Housing and the District Supervisor when more than one eviction notice, 3-day notice, or buyout offer is made in a building. In a matter of a couple of months, we can be notified within days of filings of notices and help connect tenants more quickly and effectively to the appropriate resources. The short-term goal is to connect the affected tenants with the services the city already has quickly so that evictions and displacement can be avoided and the city can retain its rent-controlled housing stock. But the long-term goal is to improve rent board filings so that data and notifications are automated and the system can work more quickly and efficiently. There are other steps that need to be taken to protect our housing, but this is something we can do in the short term to help protect existing residents remain in their rent-controlled housing, and I ask my colleagues to join me in this short-term solution. The rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Christensen. Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you. I submit.
Supervisor Farrell.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, I have two items today. First is a reauthorization of our existing film rebate program here in San Francisco. Film productions that choose to locate and film here, as we've talked about over the years, do bring numerous benefits to our residents, workers, and our local economy. Our current rebate program that we have seen has grown over the years, proven very successful, and has incentivized more and more film productions to locate here in our city. And as we continue to focus on keeping our arts here in San Francisco, I do believe this is a big part of it and that culture and that community. The rebate program currently is set to sunset at the end of this June, and it's imperative that, in my opinion, that we continue the program. That's why I'm introducing legislation today to do exactly that for a number of years. The rebate program is showcasing our world-class city on the big screen, providing longer-term employment for crews and actors in our city, and boosting our local economy and diversifying it as the other parts of our economy continue to grow. For every dollar rebated to the film productions who come to San Francisco, data shows that approximately $6 are spent here locally on wages and other expenditures that are benefiting our city. What's even more encouraging is the early data shows that the Film Commission expects the return on investment from the rebate program to grow over time, which again means more benefits for local crews, actors, and our economy. In terms of the growth and function of the program, in order for film productions to receive the city rebate, they must meet certain qualifications to be deemed a qualified production in our city, meaning that 65% of their total principal photography days are located within our city limits. The thing that I believe is great about this is how we've expanded over the years to include news programs, documentaries, web series, commercials, music videos, and a host of other productions. Furthermore, an expansion of the state film tax credit here in California goes into effect on July 1st of this year, and we expect that with this tax credit expansion and the extension of our rebate program here locally, even more productions will be incentivized to locate here in our city. Just to highlight, in the last 2 years, some of the productions that have been here in San Francisco because of our film rebate program. HBO's Looking, seasons 1 and 2, which season 2 is currently being aired on HBO. MTV's Real World came back to San Francisco for season 29, over 27 years since their first series here. Netflix's web series Sense8 has had a number of episodes here. And Caviar Content's Diary of a Teenage Girl, which debuted at the Sundance Festival in 2015, was filmed here. All these productions have helped support local crews and actors, our hotels, our local small businesses, and so much more. And for this year, we already have 3 productions which have signed up for the program, and we expect more. From my perspective, and someone who has continued to carry this legislation, extending this program and funding it over the past few years, I believe the program has proven that it pays for itself and then some. It's rare to have government programs that see such a high return on investment and bring numerous benefits like that of our film rebate program here in San Francisco. It's been an important asset for our local economy in the past, and I hope it will be in the future, and believe that extending it will continue the success of this program. Second of all, I have legislation that I have the honor of carrying this year, which a number of my colleagues have in the years past, to introduce a waiver for the temporary street occupancy fees for Small Business Week 2015. This will be the 11th anniversary of San Francisco Small Business Week, and the theme this year will be celebrating small businesses. This is also the 11th year that the Board of Supervisors and the Office of Small Business have supported sidewalk sales as part of Small Business Week. And this year I'm pleased to introduce this legislation. This year, 20 merchant corridors throughout our city have signed up to participate in the annual sidewalk sale, which is slated for Saturday, May 16th and Saturday, May 23rd. To support these corridor sidewalk sales during those dates, I want to thank the Department of Public Works and the staff of the Bureau of Street Use and Mapping for their support year after year in processing the permits. Encourage everyone, certainly, again, to buy local, shop small, and visit their merchant corridors, not only during Small Business Week, but throughout the entire year. And the rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Farrell. Supervisor Kim.
Thank you. I am introducing 2 pieces of legislation today. The first is expanding the limited live permit to the Western South of Market area plan. In 2011, the city passed legislation to allow entertainment on a limited basis at existing restaurants and businesses. These permits allow activities such as mic'd singing, music, poetry, dancing, and fashion. These permits support both small businesses and a growing and emerging diverse local talent in San Francisco by allowing entertainment on a limited basis within our existing businesses and our neighborhood corridors. Our office worked over the course of several months with the Entertainment Commission, residents, business owners, and other stakeholders to develop a community plan for Weston Soma that supports the residential character of this neighborhood, which is a mixed-use neighborhood, as many folks know, but also acknowledges its historical identity as a place for the performing arts and entertainment. At the time that the Western Soma plan was passed, limited live performance permits were not allowed due to neighborhood concerns about the non-existent track record of these permits. Several years later, we have now learned that of the 58 permits that have been issued throughout the city, only 3 businesses have been the subject of complaints. 2 of these were made about noise that occurred much later than the time of entertainment that was permitted on the permit. Businesses with limited live permits are subject to increased regulation because they are also under the regulatory jurisdiction of the Entertainment Commission. And the Commission follows up and investigates any complaints even if they are not related to the use of the limited live permit. We have found that the fear that these LLPs would conflict with the mixed-use nature of the area was unfounded. However, the initial prohibition was an important part of this process. At the request of the Entertainment Commission and several of our small businesses in the South of Market, I'm introducing legislation today that will expand limited live permits in the Western Soma Area Plan. The legislation will allow limited live entertainment along our major corridors on 9th and 10th Street, from Mission to Harrison, and along Howard and Folsom in the South of Market. They will not be permitted in the residential enclaves or alleys where most of our residents live. It is my hope that the LLPs will support the lively culture of emerging spoken word artists, musicians, comics, the nexus of arts and entertainment here in their city, while supporting our small businesses that provide foot traffic and enhance the safety of our neighborhood corridors. Second, I am also introducing trailing legislation to strengthen existing health code requirements for gas stations to provide clean and accessible bathrooms to their patrons during business hours by creating an enforcement mechanism. District 6 is a mixed-use neighborhood, as I mentioned before, historically with a lot of office, manufacturing, nightlife, entertainment, arts, but also housing. And over the last 15 years, we have seen a steady increase of growth of housing and residential in this neighborhood. A key part of the work that I do is ensuring that we have sufficient neighborhood infrastructure with this increased development and density. A critical piece of this infrastructure beyond parks and pedestrian safety is actually public restrooms. Whether it is piloting staffed pit stops in the Tenderloin or on 6th Street in 3111 hotspots, or mapping the existing public restrooms that should be allowing access to our tourists, our workers, our residents, it's really important that we are able to allow usage in our neighborhoods so that people don't have to go to the bathroom on people's doorsteps and stoops. I want to thank Supervisor Farrell for initially introducing legislation around this, during which we learned that gas stations are specifically required that their patrons have a safe and clean facility to utilize, which is incredibly important in a neighborhood like the South of Market, which has 2 24-hour gas stations, which are the top grossing gas stations in the state, that are also kitty corner from many clubs, including 2 venues that have after-hour permits, including 1015 Folsom and the End Up. We have found that commuters, club goers, and travelers alike often get gas, purchase food and drink, but we're not actually able to use restroom facilities, especially late at night, and we're often locked out, causing issues for the surrounding residential neighborhood and merchant corridors. Our office has been working with DPH to clean up a loophole that allowed a lack of oversight and enforcement for violations. This is purely an effort to close the loophole, as we have always required bathrooms to remain open, by establishing a tiered fine system for DPH to use when issuing notices of violations after inspection and hearing. And on the rest, I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Kim. Supervisor Marr.
Thank you, colleagues. I wanted to thank Supervisor Campos for raising the state of emergency and crisis within the Mission District, and I'm proud to be one of the 5 supervisors standing in solidarity with the Mission District. And I sense that as we look forward for the city's challenges with affordable housing, but also to address the severe and rapid displacement, that we will look with solidarity to communities like the Mission District that has such a history of standing up to displacement, but also supporting other communities in need as well. Colleagues, I am saddened to announce that there have been 2 suicides of young people, youth, in the Richmond District in the month of April. And it's a serious concern with those of us that have mental illness within our families like mine, that we need so much more community mental health services. We're approaching Asian Pacific American Mental Health Day on May 10th. We'll be celebrating it on Sunday, Mother's Day, at the Richmond District Neighborhood Center. But I wanted to just say a little bit about the suicides that occurred at Washington High School, or of students from Washington High School. So in the Richmond District, we lost 2 Washington High School community members to suicide in the month of April. I've known of different incidents when I was on the school board for 8 years, but usually they were concentrated at Lowell High School and some of the other high schools. So to have 2 in 1 month in April is a serious, serious concern. Also, out of respect for the privacy of the families, I won't divulge any details until they become public for the families. But I did want to say it's a serious concern. For students, I think the need for wellness services is critical at all levels, but especially at high school. As a father of a high school student, I know the stresses that high school and college prep or vocational prep can put on young people. And without that strong community-based mental health services, it really makes it challenging, especially for working class and immigrant families. I know that one of the suicide victims was an Asian American. The other was an 18-year-old that had recently transferred out of Washington High School. I also know that Washington has a great wellness center that does peer-to-peer mental health youth counseling that's a model of how to build strong support from within school. So it's a school-based model, and I thank Richmond Area Multi-Services for helping develop that model. I know that the school district has a great school health program that really helps with the families and the school communities. And I know our city has also strongly supported wellness centers and community-based models. But the defunding of community mental health from the 80s to the 90s leave us in a situation where many families and young people don't have the support that they need from our community mental health system. I think the excellent work by Richmond Area Multi-Services, by Washington High School and the school district really need much more support. And I did want to say that as we look to the expansion of the Children's Fund, thanks to the voters of San Francisco, that I really urge the Department of Children, Youth, and Families and the new commission to strongly evaluate the types of support for multicultural, multilingual, culturally sensitive mental health services for our young people and our communities. I also wanted to say, too, that as we look at mental and behavioral health services, I think we need to look at communities like the Richmond District, which might be seen as a model minority district, but we have tremendous poverty, tremendous needs, especially of immigrant young people and families. I also wanted to say that now having talked about the tragedy, I wanted to say that because of great organizations like the Richmond Area Multi-Services, which I served as the receptionist in 1984, 31 years ago. So I feel like it's my district's mental health center, which I was a staff member of 31 years ago, that they have led an effort not only in San Francisco but also around the state to acknowledge Asian Pacific American Mental Health Day. So this Sunday, May 10th, from 1 to 4 p.m. at our Richmond District Neighborhood Center, we'll be celebrating the work of RAMS, but also other organizations like the Richmond District Neighborhood Center that are partnering to create this human safety net where we have great mental health services for everyone in our neighborhoods. So please join us at the Richmond District Neighborhood Center for the Family Wellness Fair promoting mental health wellness. There'll be a lot of activities, arts and crafts, group sing-alongs, games and activities, face painting, yoga, and a family photo exhibit. But we will also be celebrating the great work of so many mental health agencies and schools and community centers in our district as well. If you want more information, you can go to the website www.ramsinc.org. That's RAMSINC.org. Lastly, hopefully the tragic suicides at Washington High School from April will help us raise awareness to promote stronger mental health programs within our district, not just on APA Mental Health Day, but also every day of the year. Thank you. The rest I'll submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Marr. Supervisor Tang.
Thank you very much. Today I am introducing, as a co-sponsor along with the Mayor's Office as well as Supervisor Wiener, a package of legislation having to do with Muni and how it is that we improve our public transportation system. The first is that we are going to be amending our contract, MTA's contract with New Flyer of America, to purchase 48 standard buses and 50 articulated buses, as well as parts, training manuals, and other tools that will go along with that. The amendment will be funded by FTA funds, Federal Transportation Agency funds, Prop K sales tax, and other local funds. And I think that this is really important as we are trying to do our very best to make the investments we need to do to be able to encourage more people to ride public transportation, not just for our generation, but for those to come. The second package of legislation has to do with Proposition A that was passed in November and was unanimously supported by our Board of Supervisors. One is to authorize the issuance of the $500 million general obligation bond, and the second is to authorize the sale of a $67 million bond measure as well from the 2014 transportation bond, specifically going towards projects such as Muni Forward, Better Market Street, and other pedestrian safety improvements. And so I'm glad that we as a city are valuing our public transportation system, and the mayor and supervisors recently announced an additional $48 million to SFMTA to improve the reliability, and hopefully these investments will pan out in the long run, as well as for short term. And lastly, I did want to request that we adjourn our board meeting in memory of the mother of our city controller, Ben Rosenfield. His mother, Sandra Rosenfield, passed away unexpectedly a week ago. She lives in Chicago, and I know that we want to send our very best to not only Mr. Rosenfield's family, but also his coworkers in the controller's office. His mother, Sandra, lives in Chicago, and she actually helped found the first hospice service in Chicago and worked as a registered nurse. And again, I know that it was very unexpected for a controller. I want to wish him and his family all the very best during this recovery, and see if there's any objection to doing this on behalf of the entire Board of Supervisors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor Tang.
Colleagues, can we take this on behalf of the entire board without objection? And we'll be adjourning the meeting on the entire board without objection. Thank you, Supervisor Tang.
Thank you, Madam President. Supervisor Wiener. Supervisor Yee. Okay. And Supervisor Avalos.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, if I'm looking a little redder this week, it's not exactly a sunburn. I had the opportunity to go to Cuba last week, and it was pretty much a trip meeting with educators, government officials, people involved in healthcare, public health, and people involved with disaster response, among other groups that we met with. And a lot to learn, a very different economic system that Cuba has compared to the United States. Obviously, it's a socialist country. But what was a huge takeaway for me from that experience was that down to the individual, the government of Cuba does a lot to support people and involve people in many aspects of their delivery of services and building of infrastructure. It's also a country that's very, very poor in infrastructure, but very rich in the human spirit and what they do for people and families. Met with a lot of people who discussed what it's like to raise children in this country, and they don't have a lot of worries about what their children are up to, or the education that their children get, or what kind of access their children have to health care or housing. All of that is taken care of. They do have a lot of concern, though, about how far their dollars can go. Not their dollars, but their pesos can go, and stretching out to meet their needs. The standard of living is really hard, especially with the blockade that comes from the United States. But one of the things that I felt was really important to take away was when it comes to deciding how to move the economy forward and how to make decisions around what kind of investments are made, even from foreign companies, that people are looking for to really how to develop the country for everyday people, for the least among them. And that's something that we don't do enough of here in this country. And we're seeing a huge boon in our economy here in San Francisco, but there are many who are not benefiting from that. And I still think it's like what Supervisor Campos has done in putting a moratorium forward for the Mission District. It makes a lot of sense when our economy is not lifting the boats of the people who desperately need the housing that's being created. We talk about market rate housing. When it's not a market, it's not a San Francisco market, it's a global market that housing is built for. It's for people who actually can invest their dollars in purchasing housing that they might not even live in this country. And that's quite an amazing thing that we see a phenomenon happening here in San Francisco, that we create all this wealth that is unattainable for people who live here. So I'm really committing myself to make sure that we can do what we can to share and redistribute our great wealth in this city, to make sure that the least among us can benefit as much as they can. And I'll take this lesson that I learned from my last trip and my actions here in the remaining 18 months I have left here in the Board of Supervisors, and look forward to working with you on that, colleagues. Thank you. The rest I'll submit.
Seeing no other names on the roster, Madam President, that concludes the introduction of new business.
Okay, Madam Clerk, can you please call item number 2?
Item 2 has previously been called. It is the amendment of various codes for noise reductions and regulations relating to residential uses near places of entertainment.
President Breed.
Thank you. Colleagues, today I have small technical amendments for item number 2. It addresses how we deal with the current and pending residential development projects. I won't go into all the boring details, but essentially we are concerned that there could be conflict or inconsistency between section 116.11, which deals with projects for which complete development applications have already been submitted, and section 8, which also deals with how the ordinance will apply to pending building permit applications. The amendments, which I circulated a little while ago to you all, simply clear up any potential confusion or inconsistency. They're non-substantive amendments. The Entertainment Commission will have the opportunity, if it chooses, to hold a hearing on any pending development. This will not delay the project's progress or other permit approvals, but it will provide the opportunity we all seek for the developer and the venue to meet with the Entertainment Commission and start planning how the two can coexist. And then the Planning Department can heed any input from the Entertainment Commission along the way. We had a very thoughtful hearing on this legislation at the Land Use Committee, so I won't belabor the points here. I do just want to briefly thank everyone who has made this landmark legislation possible, starting with Supervisor Scott Wiener, who was a supporter from very early on and who's a great advocate for nightlife, as well as other supervisors who are sponsoring this legislation, including Supervisor Cohen, Supervisor Kim, Supervisor Christensen, and Supervisor Farrell, who frequents the nightlife establishments in the city. I'd also like to thank the Department of Building Inspection Code Advisory Committee, the Small Business Commission, the Entertainment Commission, the Building Inspection Commission, and the Planning Commission, who all unanimously endorsed this legislation. All of the staff of the Entertainment Commission, including Kami Blackstone and Jocelyn Kane, our incredible Deputy City Attorney Vicki Wong, Ben Van Houten of the Office of Economic and Workforce Development, Diego Sanchez at the Planning Department, and my legislative aide, Connor Johnston. Lastly, I want to thank the nightlife community who helped give this city its soul, and who has been so incredibly and supportive and involved throughout this process, including the California Music and Cultural Association, Ben Bleeman, a bar owner and nightlife leader, whose online petition got over 3,700 signatures to support this legislation, and dozens of people who came to both the Planning Commission meeting as well as the Land Use Committee. Thank you all. San Francisco's nightlife bars and theaters attract over 16 million customers each year and generates over $800 million in spending in this city, according to the Comptroller's Office report. But more than that, these venues are an integral part of our culture and what makes us San Francisco. And as we build more housing for everyone who wants to live here, we have to protect the reasons why they want to live here in the first place. So thank you to everyone who's made this possible. Together, we are protecting San Francisco's music venues and making sure people living here are also enjoying the vibrant nightlife that exists throughout our great city. Thank you.
So, colleagues, President Breed has made a motion to make technical amendments to this ordinance. Can we have a second? Second by Supervisor Wiener. Supervisor Wiener, You want to say a few words? Oh, okay, great. So if we can take the motion to amend without objection. Without objection. Supervisor Wiener.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to thank President Breed and her office for their leadership on this very important piece of legislation. I was proud to and happy to play President Breed's wingman on this one, and her office did just an extraordinary job working with the community and with the city departments to make this a reality. This legislation, frankly, is long overdue. We know that nightlife is very important to the culture of our city and also to the economy of our city. One of the first things I did when I took office was to request an economic impact report, which showed that nightlife is a $4.2 billion industry that employs over 50,000 people. More recently, we've been working to improve late-night transportation. But it's all for naught if our late-night establishments struggle to survive. We are growing as a city. The city is becoming more crowded, and we are putting more housing in, which is very important. But as we become, as our population grows, we all have to learn, I think, to get along together in different kinds of ways. And we no longer have the luxury of having live music venues that are sort of isolated on their own with nothing anywhere near them. That's harder and harder to do given the current state of our city. And so we have to make sure that as various kinds of development moves closer and closer to our live music venues and other late night venues, that we have clear rules in place. And one of those rules, of course, has to be adequate soundproofing on these buildings. But another rule needs to be that people know and understand where they're moving. That when you move into a neighborhood, you take the neighborhood as you find it. You don't come into a neighborhood and say, wait, there's something that's been there for a long time and I don't like it, and so it has to go. These entertainment uses, these live music uses, they are incredibly important parts of our city. We need to make sure that people who rent or buy near these venues know what's going on there, know that there is live music or another form of entertainment, and that we don't have a situation with new neighbors coming in and helping to shut down these venues. So again, thank you to President Breed for pursuing this important legislation, and I'm really proud to support it.
Thank you. And seeing no other names on the roster, so can we call the roll on this item, please, Madam Clerk?
On item 2, as amended, Supervisor Christensen.
Aye.
Christensen, aye. Supervisor Cohen.
Aye.
Cohen, aye. Supervisor Farrell. Farrell, aye. Supervisor Kim. Kim, aye. Supervisor Marr.
Aye.
Marr, aye. Supervisor Tang.
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Wiener.
Aye.
Wiener, aye. Supervisor Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Avalos.
Aye.
Avalos, aye. Supervisor Breed.
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Campos.
Aye.
Campos, aye. There are 11 ayes.
This item passes as amended unanimously on the first reading. Madam Clerk, can we please go to public comment?
At this time, the public may comment generally for up to 2 minutes on items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board, including the minutes and items on the adoption without reference to committee calendar. Please note public comment is not allowed on items that have already been subject to public comment at a board committee. Pursuant to Board Rule 4.22, direct your remarks to the board as a whole and not to individual supervisors nor to the audience. Speakers using translation assistance will be allowed twice the amount of time to testify. And if you would like to display your document on the overhead projector, please clearly state such and to SFG TV and remove the document when you'd like the screen to return to live coverage of the meeting.
Thank you. First speaker, please.
Now, I realize this is a long shot. This is a long shot. There's virtually 100% chance that the Archbishop of San Francisco is not watching this meeting. I'm hoping one of his aides is. And I am Mark Trout, and I own Steam Master Carpet Cleaning in San Jose. And if he will dial 264-0419, the Archbishop will get 1,000 square foot of carpet cleaned for free. But here's the point I want to make. You can only obtain this if you show up at the San Francisco Board of Supervisors meeting next Tuesday, the 12th, and take advantage of public comment. I guarantee you this thing will, the way, everybody's on TV through the computer, right? And if you show up, you will, I guarantee you, these Board of Supervisors, they will shake in their boots as you answer to their charges that you are hateful and intolerant because you say that homosexuality is wrong. Okay. Now, today I'd like to preach on Luke chapter 18. See, the Bible, the best argument I could give you to become a Christian is the argument that Jesus gave and Paul gave and Peter gave. And that is the argument of fulfilled prophecy. In Luke chapter 18, before he died on the cross, he said, "Behold, we go up to Jerusalem, and all things that are written by the prophets concerning the Son of Man shall be fulfilled." Think about that. He pointed to that which was written by the prophets. The prophets had been long dead. They spanned from Moses to Malachi 1,000 years. And then he detailed some of them. He didn't actually say, read Isaiah 53, read Psalm 22, read Daniel 9, but in essence he did, because he pointed out, he said, he'll be delivered to the Gentiles, he'll be mocked and spitted on, spitefully entreated and scourged and put to death, and the third day he'll rise again. That's Psalm 16. Which says he'll rise from the dead basically in 3 days before his body would see corruption. And so all the religions are shown false because they have no prophecy.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Of Taoism, or Confucianism, or Buddhism, of Catholic Christian, or Islamism, find us one better. I have no money. This is my initial statement, first sentence. I have no money. Too many citizen people, even for the one who dresses really well, could be totally out of money like me. For looking at those physical force of workers to office literally related workers, how many of us can enjoy and endure 8 hours a day for 5 days a week, being confined within bound working place in terms of vision, sounds, speech, actions, thinking, usage, and paraphrase without freedom of self-expression. Being responsible to support one's family members and oneself and all related expenditures, or those restrict us too much. Business world leaders enjoy a career of creation, invention, connection, and with unity of worldly politics, holiness, education, and worldly missionary works for true destiny of targeted objective. Please make life pattern for all people to develop a long vacation and missionary style of daily works that surely will fit for all. I sing a song. I just call to say I love you. I just call to say how much I care. I just call to say I love you, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. To my girlfriend, my Chinatown.
Thank you. And I just want to announce that we have 3:30 accommodations today, and so we will only be able to take public comment up until 3:30. Once 3:30 time comes, we will do our regular accommodations and resume public comment after the accommodations. So just wanted to let the members of the public know. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, President Breed and Supervisors. I have graphics here, and I want to show you San Francisco natives, what happens to San Francisco natives sometimes. They disappear sometimes. You know that it was in the news, and safety was admired. The tour bus was going down Haight Street. The city tour bus, it caught on fire. The tour bus caught on fire. The tour bus caught on fire. Gonna set the Haight Street night on fire. And the safety was admired and was sired. And the fire alarm came along the wire. And the tour bus went down Haight Street, and you know that it had caught on fire. The tour bus caught on fire. The tour bus caught on fire. Gonna set the Haight Street night on fire, yeah. And then, by the way, safety was admired. And I want to say to you that you heard it in the news. The tour bus caught on fire. Gonna set the Haight Street night on fire, yeah. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
I am 84 years old. I am Holocaust survivor, and I am on the street for more than a year. America is fascist, barbarian, Hitler country for me. And by the way, 70 years ago, America sent to gas chamber 500 women and children, Jewish. It's sent by Joseph Kennedy and Roosevelt. Joseph Kennedy was the best friend. He was ambassador to Germany, and he was the best friend of Hitler. And he said, until I will leave, no one Jewish leg will will come to United States. And a group of rabbis from Europe, from Germany, cursed him as they told him that it's only children and women. Let them ship by name St. Louis. Let them to come to United States. He and Roosevelt said no, and he was cursed by Jewish rabbi that all his children on man's size will be killed in this. And I ask you, Board of Supervisors, help me to return to my home. I wanted to die not on the street, but I wanted to die at my home.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
President Breed and other victims of the cabal, my name is Christopher Dahl, and I live at 6th and Howard, currently 10 blocks and 14 meters from sea level. I rise to comment on the return of the circus. I refer not to any family entertainment enterprise, but to the political circus, which has been and is once again our seismically challenged Hall of Justice. Our beloved city and county of San Francisco has been under court order for decades to replace this aging structure because it is unsafe. Another attempt to finally do this is being put before the voters. But members, once again you display your moral conveniences for all to snicker at. Previously, the left pushed for the new jail as evidence of concern for the unfortunates who found themselves incarcerated there. The right could not bring themselves to coddle criminals and opposed it. Currently, the left is pushing against a new facility, arguing that the caseload is dropping, that incarceration is ineffective, that the money should be used for services which might actually do some good. And the right is now in favor, finally feeling the weight of their custodial responsibilities and truly concerned for the safety of all within the building. Members, your first concern is the safety of the people who work for you and the safety of the people you work for. Stop fiddling and let's move on this. Thank you, President Breed.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, Supervisors. My name's Amy Farah-Weiss. I'm the founder of Neighbors Developing Divisadero, and I became activated in local San Francisco politics back in 2011 when Chase Bank wanted to work with the planning department and Mayor Ed Lee's administration and the property owner to displace 2 local businesses at 401 Divisadero. And my neighbors and I were pretty shocked that the planning department wasn't following the law and allowing community input into that process. And so we protested against it, and we could have sued the city, but we decided that we didn't want a lawsuit at that time, and we wanted to put our energies into something more positive, so we worked to actually alter formula retail law to include financial services. And it was at that time I realized, okay, yes, we have to say no to profit-driven displacement and rising inequality in San Francisco, but we also have to find our righteous and strategic yes. And as neighbors who care about social equity, we actually have to start thinking like developers, and we have to start to learn the law, which is really important because sometimes it's broken, as we've seen by a lot of corporations in San Francisco. Instead of following due process of the law, which there is a process in order to shape it if we want to, but people are breaking it, and that's why the people have to come and stand up to this. And so now we're moving forward with thinking about how is it that we support inclusive, enriching, and sustainable development? How do we support a livable, equitable, resilient San Francisco? We need a diversity of workers living in San Francisco and working in San Francisco. And I actually have some ideas about how we can make that happen, and I'm happy to talk about them with people in the upcoming weeks. And one of the things we should keep in mind is the Balboa Reservoir. If you can show that really quickly, we can make that 100% affordable housing. And also, if you love the Giants, ask the Giants to hit a home run for affordable housing. They want to do too much luxury development right now. So let's go ahead and make sure that they do the right thing with their development.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. My name is Paul Hansberry. There's a very passionate group of people in the Sunset that are vehemently opposed to medical cannabis dispensaries. They are...
I'm sorry, sir. We can't speak about items that are already on our agenda.
I'm sorry. There's some documents in front of you that may have swayed the vote had I gotten to them in time, where the active use has always been an active use since 2011. It was never instated that it needed a conditional use, and that
I'm sorry, sir. The item is on our agenda, and there was public comment during the committee. So unfortunately, this is general public comment. We have your packets. Each of us received a copy, but we've already had this item on our agenda, and we can't take any public comment for that particular item at this time. I'm really sorry.
All right. Well, I wish you'd reconsider the vote with this new information.
Thank you very much. And this will be the last speaker before we go to our 3:30 commendations.
Hello, my name is Henny Kelly. I was a teacher in San Francisco for close to 40 years. I started teaching in the Mission at 23rd and Valencia. I ended teaching in the Mission. The Mission is close to my heart. I have many friends who were my students' children, and my students' grandchildren. And some of those grandchildren were my students the last time I taught. I want you to think about something when you think about what Supervisor Campos wants to do. He wants to keep the people from the Mission in the Mission. These people are wonderful. The schools are good. But you know something? When there are no children, there are no schools. And if we lose this generation of Latino people, if we lose this generation of Mission families, we lose a lot. It's not just fighting for the heart and soul of the Mission. It's showing how to fight for the heart and soul of the whole city. I taught in lots of districts. I can see what you are doing, Supervisor Campos, for your district should be done for all the districts, because when we lose families, we will lose the schools. And I will tell you something, we've already lost the teachers because they can't afford to live in the Mission, the Richmond, or any of the other districts where I taught.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly. And at this time, we will resume public comment after we have finished our 3:30 commendations. Thank you all for being here today. And as we know, May is Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and the Board of Supervisors is excited to recognize outstanding members of the API community. So in accordance with Board Rule number 4.13, For each district, we will have a total of 5 minutes for each supervisor to introduce his or her honoree, followed by comments from the honoree. So that, and along with the photographs, please keep it at 5 minutes per supervisor. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Supervisor Marr for an introduction. He will then introduce he would introduce Claudine Cheng, and then we will be starting our commendations today with Supervisor Farrell and followed by Supervisor Christensen.
Thank you, President Breed. Colleagues, last night was the Asian Pacific American Heritage Month celebration. It was the 11th kind of that we've done in City Hall, and I wanted to say that it wouldn't have come together, a culmination of 11 years of hard work, without the vision and the leadership of Claudine Cheng and the committee. I wanted to say last night was a beautiful display of creativity with the honorees that'll be announced in a moment, but also the diversity of the Asian and Pacific Islander American communities, from not only Chinese people like my background, but also to Southeast Asians and Pacific Islanders and everyone within the broad and diverse Asian Pacific Islander communities. I wanted to also say that the APA Heritage Foundation really did the hard work of pulling together funding from many different sources, and I wanted to thank the donors and the APA Heritage Committee for really the hard work selecting the theme, doing the outreach, and creating a month-long list of different types of activities. And you can find the various events going on in our city at apasf.org. That's apasf.org. I also wanted to put on your radar and hopefully in your calendars that May 16th is the Asian Heritage Street Celebration that will be here in the Civic Center Plaza, Little Saigon area. It used to travel from Japantown to the Sunset to different spots to Chinatown and other spaces, but it's found a home here in the Civic Center area near Little Saigon. With that, I wanted to say that it's a diverse number of honorees that each of our 11 districts will bring up in a moment, but I wanted to give an opportunity for the founder, Claudine Cheng, to come up to the podium to make some brief remarks before we get underway. Claudine Cheng.
Thank you, Supervisor Ma. Thank you to the members of the Board of Supervisors for giving me the time today to actually thank you for commending Asian Pacific Americans in your district. It's a day, a time in a year that we all look forward to. Indeed, many of you were at the celebration here in the Rotunda last night. I believe we have 600 to 700 people. In the theme of this year, we're celebrating creativity in design. And like Supervisor referenced to, we have a very diverse pool of nominations. It's really amazing to see some of the work being nominated from the public, and it just was very challenging for us to have selected 3 honorees. And before I introduce them to you, it is our tradition to, in case you did not bring your Asian APA heritage pin, I know Board President Breed has one. I just like to pass around it so that maybe you can wear it proudly when you present your honors.
The clerk will be there to pick it up from you.
Fantastic. So to start, our first honoree last night was Dave Young Kim. Dave was a Korean American based in Oakland now, and he was a mural artist. Dave, would you like to come up? And the subject matter of Dave's mural work is all over Oakland, mostly on the East Bay, and talking about the message about the struggles of students, especially the youth. I urge you to go see some of his work. It's really amazing. Our second honoree is Filipino American Crisanta Malik. Crisanta is here with us. Crisanta immigrated to this country from Angeles City in the Philippines, and she was really self-taught. She loved fashion, she said, but she couldn't afford this, so she started to sew and design when she was 5 years old. She was really a success story of somebody self-taught and has made it, and we're very proud to have selected Crisanta as one of our honorees. And the third one is Linda Mihara. Many of you, of course, Japantown is in Board President Breed's district. Linda came from, had a store, her parents have a store in Japantown called Paper Tree on the Buchanan Mall, and the store has been there for 48 years. Linda also, I think, started with origami at 5. There's something about this thing at age 5 that I think I didn't do right. Yes, right. With origami, and her parents were really notable, also specialists in the field of origami, and it's amazing when we saw artwork, not just artwork, but wearable art, gowns, neck pieces, pins in museums. I mean, it's amazing the work that one can do out of paper. So I urge you to also look up Linda Mihara's website, and this is Linda, with one of the signature neck pieces that she wanted was made out of paper. It's really fantastic. So, Supervisor Ma?
Thank you, Claudine, and congratulations to the honorees. And at this time, we're going to move forward with the honorees that the board have, and we're going to start with Supervisor Farrell. Thank you so much for being here, and congratulations.
Okay, colleagues, have the honor of starting this off, and really fun when you get to honor someone at the board that has not just done amazing things in the community, but is truly a friend. And so very honored to honor today for Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, a good friend of mine, Sue Ventikisen. So Sue, come on up. You can come up to the podium when I get to talk about you for a minute here. So colleagues, just a bit of background on Sue, a Korean American who came to the U.S. at 3 years old. She's a graduate of the University of Virginia and Harvard Business School, has over 15 years of business and philanthropic background that's pretty amazing, has really focused her time, though, on education, which I think is what has been so amazing. Moved to San Francisco in 1997 and is raising two very cool young boys here in our city, two little baseball fans as well, and baseball nuts. Her career professionally included McKinsey & Company, JP Morgan, and had done some amazing things. But I'm going to read a few of the organizations that she was involved with through education. A senior program officer of the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation and the S.D. Bechtel Jr. Foundation, where she helped steward the foundation's multi-million-dollar investment in the San Francisco Unified School District for professional development. Has been a conference speaker and a thought leader on STEM and expanded learning issues. Has been a board member for Partnership for Children and Youth for 3 years, a board member for SF School Volunteers and the SF Education Fund for 6 years, and a board member of the Nueva School. And she's been an advisory board member and leadership advisor for Squash Drive, the Meritus Fund, the Basic Fund, the Mission Science Workshop in San Francisco, and the network of community science workshops. From my perspective, what makes Sue amazing, as we've talked a little bit over time about her accomplishments and her desire and her passion around education, is someone who's done so much professionally but really does spend the time to give back. So, Sue, it's an honor to have you here at the Board of Supervisors. It's a great for you to come down here and just know how thankful I am to have you not only as a resident in the district, but someone that really has been amazing to our city. So congratulations on the honor.
Thank you, Mark and supervisors. I'm delighted and honored to be here and proud to call San Francisco my home. My husband and I moved out here about 20 years ago, and our siblings moved out from the East Coast. We've all had our children here in San Francisco, and about 4 years ago, we moved both sets of grandparents out here. So we really do see San Francisco as our future. I have to admit, when Supervisor Farrell's office reached out to nominate me for this recognition, my first instinct and reaction was to say no. 2 years ago, I decided to take a break from a career in education philanthropy and stay home. And in a city that has over a third of its population of amazing Asian Americans, surely there are better candidates to honor than myself or a community volunteer. But then I realized next Sunday is Mother's Day. And I found motivation to come here and accept this honor, a recognition on behalf of all the moms in the city who are also daughters. And as we know, we are the sandwich generation. We're taking care of kids and parents at the same time. So my brief comments today are shaped by my former career in education, which I continue as a civic volunteer, but mostly by my personal experience as an immigrant who found success through education, and also just being a mom trying to do the best to raise my boys in a very challenging time, harder than when we were kids. So I just want to talk briefly about my focus on the achievement gap. And I think everyone here believes in the power of education as a pathway out of poverty. It's a great ideal, it's the American dream, but it's very complicated to realize in practice. And I've been interested professionally and personally in trying to figure out what strategies work at scale. We know what works one child at a time. There are great youth development organizations, amazing, committed mentors, many of whom are community volunteers who transform lives and help children believe in themselves and their future. But it really does take a village, and I've been fascinated with this idea of collaboration. Multiple organizations, people, public and private agencies and enterprises working together to help those kids most in need, and to not just close the achievement gap, but to give them the tools to thrive in our collective community. So imagine great schools with teachers who understand their kids and meet them where they are, schools with strong partnerships with families, community resources available to families through schools, and businesses that get involved in the local community. Opportunities for kids to have enrichment and mentoring after school in the summer. And this is the merging of school and community, and it can present itself as community schools, summer learning, or after-school learning. And I just want to highlight the partnership with children.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we have other honorees who are waiting as well, so if you could just wrap up your comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
The partnership does work in these arenas, and I want to say that I'm pleased that San Francisco is a part of the partnership's work. We are one of 7 school districts piloting expanded learning and integrated social emotional learning, and one of 12 school districts in California who are really pushing this summer learning platform. So I'm very excited about raising my family here in San Francisco and to be a part of a great city, and I look forward to the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, and congratulations again. I'd now like to acknowledge Supervisor Christensen.
Thank you, Madam President. SFGov TV, we have a slideshow for our honoree. Last night, the mayor, my fellow supervisors, and other city officials gathered in the City Hall rotunda to celebrate Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. Beautiful costumes and performances, great food. Appropriately, this year's theme is Be Creative. With Chinatown located in the heart of District 3, we look forward to this observance with special enthusiasm. There are so many talented artists and creators in District 3, it was a challenge to select a single person to represent the broad range of media, styles, and points of view that culture encompasses. But one name kept bubbling up. That was Mr. Leland Wong, who we honor today. Mr. Wong was born and raised in San Francisco's Chinatown. He's a graduate of San Francisco State University. He studied at the Academy of Art College, at Golden Gate School of Professional Photography, and at the San Francisco Art Institute, and is hard at work even now. Mr. Wong's work includes painting, photography, textiles, printmaking, and other media. He painted the wonderful Kois at Dragon Gate mural that graces the Chinese Historical Society of American Museum, which he did during an artist in residence program in 2013 and 14. And those of you who have not visited the Chinese Historical Society of America Museum, it's one of my favorite spots in District 3. Mr. Wong also created the very popular I Grew Up in San Francisco Chinatown Facebook group for people who grew up there and for whom Chinatown has played a part in their lives. And through those postings, they aim to celebrate and be proud of the experiences of growing up in Chinatown. Many of us share Mr. Wong's love of this special neighborhood. I hold its protection as one of the most important tasks in my duties as district supervisor. We are lucky to be able to see Chinatown through the eyes of Mr. Leland Wong. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
All right. Thank you. That's all my. Okay. Just my simple Academy Award speech. Yeah. Thank you, Supervisor Christensen and Board of Supervisors, whom I personally know too. There you are. And and I would like to take this opportunity to thank my father, Sui Wing Wong. He was very instrumental in my development as an artist. He encouraged me as well, and he himself was an artist at heart. And I guess I inherited that side of him. And then I want to mention the Facebook group I started in social media. Actually, I don't think I would be here if it weren't for that. It kind of gave me a platform to express my views and show my art and things like that. Okay. So anyway, since I'm standing in front of you supervisors and all that, there's been lately been a lot of concern of Chinatown dying, gentrification, and all that, and I myself is very concerned of it too, and I really hope that Chinatown will continue to be a vibrant community, a viable community, and and as well as a self-sustaining community. Now we're talking economics. Anyway, okay. So yeah, this award shows that how reminds me how important my work is, and thank you again. And just a little blurb for us artists. Support your local artists, and buy a print from them, commission them, whatever. Okay.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you and congratulations. Next up, we have a supervisor from District 10, Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming together to celebrate APA accommodations. I'd like to call up Mr. Kurt Yagi. Ladies and gentlemen, this man is one of my community partners in Visitation Valley. Please give him a round of applause. Kurt Yagi is absolutely amazing because not only is he doing work just in the Asian community, but he is working in all communities, particularly targeting the Visitation Valley neighborhood, specifically targeting the hard-to-reach young people in Sunnydale, which is one of our city's largest public housing units. And this man does it effortlessly. He does it with a team of talented staff persons as well as equally devoted board members. I've watched Kurt grow professionally since before I was on the Board of Supervisors. Let me share with you a little bit about his background. So he's the executive director of ROC, which is a nonprofit organization called Real Options for City Kids, which provides academic support, leadership training, sports, and outdoor activities for youth who live in or attend school in the San Francisco Visitation Valley area. Kurt joined the ROC family as a volunteer in 1998, and in 2003 he became the executive director of the organization. And prior to ROC, Kurt spent nearly a decade in the corporate sector, where he held a variety of business and technology consulting positions at small as well as large companies. ROC serves a community of youth who are poised with countless social and economic challenges. Many of the youth live in the Visitation Valley, including our public housing units such as Sunnydale, which is one of the most diverse populations in San Francisco. Kurt's been an advocate not only for the youth of ROC, but has immersed himself in the greater Viz Valley community, working on numerous neighborhood projects, as well as spearheading initiatives. Anyone who knows this man knows that he is truly passionate about his work, and he really cares about the children and the youth that he's serving. I am so proud to present to you this man. I call him a friend as well as my partner. I know our city is a stronger place because of his dedication and commitment to our entire community. Ladies and gentlemen, Kurt Yagi.
Thank you, Supervisor Cohen, and the rest of the Board of Supervisors. First off, I want to say I love District 10. I love the people there. There's so many families and children. I love just everything about it. It's very diverse there, and I love the sunshine, of course. I've been a resident of Potrero Hill for over 10 years, and I've been serving Visitation Valley since 1998, so quite a few years. My reward for the work I do at Real Options for City Kids is really the countless number of children who grow up to be successful adults, and I see them all the time. It's just all the time. Every weekend I run into a past participant as an adult who stops me at the grocery store line or on the street and says, I remember that time that adult listened to me or helped me with homework or taught me to play basketball. And that's a reason that I'm successful today. And so this is the reason I do what I do. I am very passionate about what I do, and it drives me to want to do more. So, and thank you, Supervisor Cohen, for all you do. I wouldn't want your job, nor do I think I could do your job, but your work does not go unnoticed. And even before before you became supervisor, you were out doing a lot of work for Rock and Visitation Valley. So I really appreciate that. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, and congratulations again. At this time, I'd like to recognize Supervisor from District 6, Supervisor Jane Kim.
Thank you. I am still waiting for one more member of the community to be here that wanted to be here for the honoring.
Okay, we can move to the next person.
I'd like to go right after that one, though.
Okay, yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to recognize Supervisor Eric Marr from District 1.
Thank you. Colleagues, my honorees span 50 years of activism in the Asian Pacific Islander communities, 50 years of a continuum of struggle for racial justice and solidarity with African American communities. I wanted to call up the organizers from Asians for Black Lives, or hashtag Asians for Black Lives, Mabel Sang and Jesse Zapanta, and 50-year Selma March veteran Vincent Wu. Could you please come forward? Thank you. And I'm just going to say that as we've learned from the Watts Rebellion, Newark, Detroit in the 60s, to Baltimore and Ferguson, Missouri today, that systemic racism still is with us very deeply. And 50 years of a continuum are represented with Asians for Black Lives. I'm very proud to be a part of Asians for Black Lives as well. And I wanted to first also just say that Mr. Vincent Wu is a retired Richmond District resident. He's a Washington High School graduate. He was the security detail to Dr. Martin Luther King, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, in the march from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama, 50 years ago, one of two Asian Americans in the march. Also with us are two amazing organizers, Mabel Sang, formerly from UC San Diego's Gender and Ethnic Studies program, organizer with Chinese Progressive Association and Asians for Black Lives, bringing communities together. Jesse Zapanta, who's active with so many organizations, including the Buddhist Peace Fellowship. So with that, I just wanted to acknowledge and honor Asians for Black Lives and ask if they want to say a few words.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Jessie Zapanta. This is Mabel Song. And in addition to organizing for Asians for Black Lives, I also teach dynamic mindfulness at Mission High School. So, as Asians for Black Lives, thank you for this honor. We accept this on behalf of the families and men who cannot be here because they were stolen from us by police. We call into this room Errol Chang, Alex Nieto, O'Shane Evans, and many more named and unnamed. We acknowledge that we as Asians have been used as part of a divide and conquer strategy to uphold white supremacy. We refuse to be used as tools to uphold a racist and violent system. We recognize the relationship between racist, militarized police forces waging wars on our black brothers and sisters and imperialist forces waging wars in our homelands. We are determined to resist both.
We understand that racist police violence is but one manifestation of the ongoing war of black and brown people. Mass incarceration, gentrification, unequal pay, mass unemployment, and inaccessible housing, education, land, fresh food, water, and healthcare, amongst others, in standing with are other manifestations. And standing with black men, women, and trans folk in the struggle, we are therefore standing not only against racist police violence, but against all war tactics. Which brings us to one such war tactic. Recently, SFPD Chief Sir said a new jail is essential because of his plans to increase the SFPD force. We know that this means increased police profiling and aggression, criminalization, arrest, and incarceration of the rapidly displaced black neighbors in San Francisco. We solidly stand against the proposed jail. We demand the Board of Supervisors reject its construction and start funding real alternatives already outlined. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Ma, for this honor. I was 50 years ago involved in the civil rights movement, but the fight carries on. So each one of us should seek justice and to acknowledge that we're all of us are equal, and that to have equal opportunity. So thank you very much for this honor.
Congratulations, and thank you for being here today. At this time, I'd like to recognize Supervisor Jane Kim from District 6.
Thank you, President Breed. Thank you. I see that all the members of the community are here, and I want to bring up our District 6 Asian Pacific American Heritage Month honoree, Tim Figueres. And the community is welcome to come up with him. We would love to see the young people come up. We'd love to see the young people come up to stand with Tim, because we are honoring him in many ways for what he has done for our young people and our families. So, many people in the room already know who Tim is. But for those that don't know Tim, he is our facilities director at the Gene Friend Rec Center on 6th Street between Howard and Folsom in the heart of the South of Market. Gene Friend, at the heart of the South of Market, as I mentioned, is surrounded by the hustle and bustle of 6th Street, the families attending Bessie Carmichael Elementary School, and of course our only multi-use park, Victoria Manalo Draves, across the street, named after the first Filipino-American to win a gold medal here in this country, a San Francisco resident. Living actually across the street from the rec center, I see Tim on most days opening or closing up the center for community events, meetings, basketball games, and occasionally as a temporary shelter for people that have been displaced by tragic fires, or recently in December, the famous Stormageddon. Tim was raised here in San Francisco and is a product of San Francisco Public Schools. Tim is also a longtime and dedicated community worker. He has been working in the South of Market for more than 3 decades. Tim, he was part of the original staff at Gene Friend Rec Center when the facility opened in 1990, and he knows this neighborhood and community as well, as exhibited by all the support that is behind him today. The trust that the community has in him is the foundation of his ability to engage and empower the community to be more civically engaged. He did briefly leave Gene Friend Rec Center to coordinate youth athletics in 2003, and then return again to the rec center in August 2010. Tim fights behind the scenes for all the young people that are here, ensuring that youth of multiple income can participate regardless of paperwork in all the activities and competitions that go around. He goes above and beyond his job. He drives teams personally to make sure that they can make it to games. He attends every neighborhood meeting. He comes and testifies at public hearings whenever he feels like there are issues at stake for families and young people in the South of Market. Youth sports and recreation activities provide young people a safe haven and leadership opportunities that continue throughout their lives. And occasionally, they even get to play against SFPD, then led by Captain Redmond, now our deputy chief, who's in the back. I think the kids won, right? But it's these types of community building engagement activities that really tie the South of Market community together. It's about building relationships amongst entities that live and work next to each other, but may not always get to talk or even play games and athletics together. I mentioned that the South of Market Rec Center opened up in 1990. This is its 25th anniversary. Over the years, the Rec Center has served many different populations, a drop-in center for youth, senior meal programs, a free weight program, which is actually actively used, a homeless shelter, and countless community events and holiday parties. In celebration of the 25th anniversary, I did want to mention that the center and the Filipino culture of the South of Market will be reviving the Barrio Fiesta that will be taking place on Saturday, May 23rd, starting at 11 a.m. We welcome you to all come. There will be a whole pig roasted at this event, which I'm super excited about, along with music and games. And Tim has been an integral part of planning this major community event. As we look back, we also look forward. There are currently plans to renovate and upgrade this important center and to build up so we can create more recreational space for all the families and seniors and adults in the South of Market. And just a little plug, we're having our second, did I go over my time? On Thursday, May 28th.
Yes, you did.
At the Rec Center.
You have 24
well, I'm going to
seconds.
hand it over to Tim. There was so much to say about you, and I want to give you some time. My apologies, President Breed.
I want to first thank President Breed and Jane and the rest of this Board of Supervisors. And don't worry, I won't do the Steph Curry thing and go individually and thank everybody here, so we'll be okay time-wise. I want to thank my wife and my family for always supported me, and I was always able to bounce back stuff with them. I hope that isn't a ding.
Keep going.
Okay, all right.
Supervisor Kim messed up on the time, not you.
I'm so sorry.
And then my two supervisors, immediate supervisors, are also here, Lorraine Banford and Terry Trejo, because they've been really supportive of what I've always tried to do at South of Market. And of course, everybody at South of Market, I turn around, I don't know what to say. I'm kind of embarrassed. But I'm glad everybody's here. I mean, I saw Vivian, I saw Byrne, I saw CeeLo, I saw Sal, Amanda Redmond, Ray, all of West Bay, Vivian, and John. So I just wanted to thank everybody, and this is the reason I do what I do. It's behind me. I don't think I do anything special, but I just want to make lives for everybody down there easier. So, and that's always been my goal. All right, thank you so much. I really feel deeply honored.
Deputy Chief? Vivian?
Thanks for directing traffic, Juicy. Thank you and congratulations. We appreciate all the work that you do for our kids. And with that, I'd like to recognize the supervisor from District 4, Supervisor Katie Tang.
Thank you, President Breed, and congratulations again to all the honorees today. And of course, Claudine Chang for always doing such a wonderful job in organizing APA Heritage Month here. Building on the theme of supporting our youth and our children in San Francisco, I wanted to bring up Alan Ma as our District 4 honoree for APA Heritage Month. So, Alan, let me first start by saying that, in the Sunset District, we have very, very few nonprofit organizations. And so the ones that we do have play a huge role in our neighborhood. And one of our main ones that's housed in our neighborhood is the Sunset Neighborhood Beacon Center, SNBC, where Alan has been working for a number of years, 6 years, I believe.
So currently he is the after-school program coordinator at Sunset Elementary School, and he actually joined the SNBC team back in 2009, started out as a kindergarten and first grade program instructor at Francis Scott Key Elementary School, which I attended. And in 2011, he transitioned into his current role, where he manages a staff of 12 program instructors who serve over 150 students each day. And through the after-school program, he helps students develop supportive relationships, provides opportunities for meaningful involvement, and builds skills that help students get ready for their future development. So as a result of the work of people like Alan, students who once struggled in school are able to find success through relationship with a very caring mentor. And I have to say that every time I see Alan, he always has a smile on his face. I can't imagine the students having a better mentor. I mean, just really wonderful working with all of them. Alan has co-coordinated the Camp SNBC summer program for 3 years, and he has been instrumental in facilitating the newly established SNBC Food Pantry, which operates every Friday and gives out food over at West Sunset. Alan has said that he doesn't feel like what he does is work because he enjoys it so much and enjoys working with the students, the families, and SNBC serves over 1,000 youth and families and adults every day. So on behalf of the entire Board of Supervisors, I just want to thank you so much for all of your work. I know that he is joined here today by his sister and his father. I know that they are probably very proud of you and really look forward to continue working with you. So thank you and congratulations, Alan.
Well, thank you, Supervisor Tang and the Board of Supervisors for honoring me with this prestigious award. I'm really proud of my heritage, and I'm really proud to call the Sunset District my home. So this award really means a lot. But I would like to accept this award on behalf of everyone who works in the Sunset District and all of San Francisco, day in and day out, to make our community a better place. When I received notification from you on Friday that I'd be honored here today, I immediately thought two things. First, I was really sad that I'd be missing work. Like you said, I have a lot of fun. I miss my kids right now already. But second, I also thought about all of the people in my life, past and present, who helped get me here today. And people who helped shape me to become who I am today and who I ultimately want to become. So I'm not accepting an MVP award. I'm not Stephen Curry. I don't have 40 minutes, so I'm not going to address everyone individually, but I'd like to address or recognize a group of people who's helped me get here to this point today. So first of all, I'd like to thank my parents. My dad is here for teaching me how to treat everyone with respect and show me what hard work really looks like. When I was growing up, it seemed like every Asian American parent wanted their students or wanted their child to go to Lowell High School, go to UC Berkeley, and become a doctor, mostly for bragging rights amongst their circle of friends. So I'd like to tell my dad, 1 out of 3 is not bad. I went to Lowell High School, then I went to UC San Diego, but obviously I did not become a doctor yet. But there's still time for that. But at least now my parents can tell their friends that I received an award at City Hall by Katie Tang, so they can take that. I'd also like to thank my brother and my sister. They're much older than I am, but they never treated me like a little brother who they could bully around. They kept me on track throughout my whole life, and they always took me out when I was 8 years old, and I thought they were the coolest people in the world. And my sister is here today, and I still think she's one of the coolest people I've ever met. I'd also like to thank my circle of friends for the continued support of my work. If you want to know what kind of person someone is, you should look at the people they associate themselves with. And I have a couple of friends here today, and I'm incredibly proud of calling them my friends. When your mom and dad constantly ask, what about Helen? I like her. They're either really worried that you're never going to get married, or they just really approve of the people you associate yourself with. Helen's my best friend, who my dad loves to death. I also like to thank my peers at the Sunset Neighborhood Beacon Center for their leadership. They provided me the opportunity to serve my community and gave me a space to grow personally and professionally. And I love my staff at Sunset Elementary, and I dedicate this award to them as well. So in conclusion, I'd like to tell you that I appreciate this award today. It really seems unfair that I'm receiving an award for simply doing something like loving my work. But I encourage everyone out there to surround yourself with positive people and find your calling, find your passions. When you do that, I'm certain that you will be rewarded in one way or another. Thank you. Cool.
Congratulations again, and thank you. Supervisor Yee, you're next up. District 7.
Thank you, President Bree. So, there are many, first of all, congratulations to everybody that's been honored today. But I want to say that there are many hidden gems in District 7. My honoree is not a hidden gem. And today it's my honor to be honoring Dennis Wu from District 7. Dennis was born in the Philippines and is of Chinese ancestry. Dennis and his parents immigrated to the United States in September 1958. He attended school in Berkeley and eventually received a BA and an MBA from UC Berkeley. Early in his career, Dennis became a leader in Deloitte's transportation work. By 1995, he had become the firm's Southeast Asian desk partner, interacting with offices in Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. Dennis recognized the potential for doing business in China and expanded Deloitte's global service group to 28 countries. His work at Deloitte was not limited to developing strong business ties with Asian countries. He was also instrumental in encouraging the firm to join the fight against AIDS and breast cancer. Dennis was the first racial minority president of the Commonwealth Club of California, a century-old convening organization where major leaders at the national and international level engage in public discourse. He was also the first racial minority president of the Haas School of Business Alumni Association. He has served on countless boards, including Stern Grove Festival, Self-Help for the Elderly, National Association of Asian Americans, and California Asian Business Council, to name a few. He currently serves as its CFO and the treasurer of the City College of San Francisco Foundation. You know, just to give you a sense of what he is, I want to read a statement that he made. Quote, "I want to work with young Chinese Americans and help them to be successful business leaders," he declared. He plans to set up a consultant firm to help accomplish this. And then, quote again, "When my son Denden grows up, I would like him to love and care for his community as much as I do." This shows you the type of character and heart Dennis has. Dennis contributions and dedication to the San Francisco Asian Pacific American community has been exceptional. And it is people like Dennis that show our next generation how vital it is to be involved and to give back to our community. In fact, he's not even done yet. More recently, Dennis expressed to me other ideas, new ideas that he's going to pursue on how Asian Americans can give back to our society. Dennis has been honored from diverse groups throughout his career. More recently, September 2014, Dennis was honored at the Chinese Culture Foundation's annual gala dinner, with the 2014 Lifetime Achievement in Community Building. Dennis was also recognized as such things as CFO of the Year for Community Services in 2007 by the San Francisco Business Times. Dennis, it's a true honor to me to honor you today. This is Dennis Wu.
Thank you, Norman, and the Board of Supervisors. I was quite shocked, actually, and surprised when Norman called me and told me he wanted to honor me because, well, as Norman mentioned, I immigrated when I was 16 years old to this country. China was in the midst of a civil war. I was born in the Philippines, as he said. I was a 16-year-old child without a country, and I was very, very grateful when I landed in the shores of San Francisco. And I had promised myself that I was going to give back to this community. So I feel like that everything I've done is really merely giving back to this community, and I'm very humbled and honored for this award. Thanks, Norman.
At this time, I'd like to acknowledge the supervisor from District 8, Supervisor Wiener.
Thank you, Madam President. Our colleagues, today I would like to honor Maria Valasan. She will come on up. Maria was born and raised in the Philippines and then immigrated to the U.S. She has been a member of United Food and Commercial Workers, UFCW, Local 648, for 25 years. And for that entire time, 25 years, she's been an employee of Walgreens in our city, serving our community. She's been an active shop steward for many years, helping many other UFCW members navigate issues around their work. More recently, Maria served as a member of the negotiations committee for UFCW's 2014 contract negotiations with Walgreens. We know that it's a tough time for retail workers living in San Francisco, given the cost of housing and the cost of living in our city. And so now more than ever, it's so important to have strong leadership in making sure that our workers are paid fairly and receive good benefits. In her spare time, she enjoys reading a good book, exercising, and spending time with her family. Maria's been a strong advocate for workers' rights and equality in the workplace in her time with UFCW Local 648, and I'm honored to be recognizing you today for APA Heritage Month. So congratulations and thank you for your service.
Thank you, everyone. I'm honored to be here. I'm going to make it short. And again, thank you and good night.
Okay, folks, just 3 more to go, and I'd like to recognize the supervisor from District 11, Supervisor John Avalos.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Unfortunately, my honorees couldn't make it today, but I do want to talk about their work in the OMI neighborhood.
Okay,
the OMI neighborhood.
Supervisor Avalos, would you mind if we, Supervisor Campos and I, acknowledge the ones that have been waiting here first and then take you last? Is that okay?
That's not a problem.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we will get to Supervisor Avalos in just a minute, and it is now my turn. I'm really excited to honor Rodney Chen from District 5. Not only does he work in District 5, but he is a resident of District 5. He's the executive director of the Buchanan YMCA, a place that I spent a lot of years as a kid and fortunately didn't get the boot even when I misbehaved. So thank you, Rodney, for always taking care of our young people. Rodney has also been a member of the steering committee of the YMCA, the USA's Asian Leadership Employment Resource Group. So we'd like to thank you for your work there. A native of San Francisco, Rodney has lived and worked in District 5 for a really, really long time, and he's a product of the public school system and has graduated from San Francisco State University with a bachelor's in kinesiology, and hopefully you can give us an understanding of what that is. We're thankful for his dedication, his consistent dedication to the community and the lives of young people. Rodney is just really a quiet force who works in our community tirelessly to make sure that our kids have an amazing opportunity, not just a safe place to grow and to thrive, but a place that they can call home and a place to grow and become successful adults. And so, Rodney, for your work, for your consistency, for your advocacy and your support of the young people and the community of District 5, today we honor you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Supervisor Breed. And good afternoon, Supervisors. Again, Supervisor Breed, I want to thank you for this recognition. And I just want to say that since I've been living in District 5, I watch Supervisor Breed advocate for the community constantly, endlessly, and with a lot of dedication to the community. So it's really an honor to be honored by you, Supervisor Breed. As Supervisor Reed mentioned, I was born and raised here in San Francisco, product of the school districts here, as well as going through City College of San Francisco, and then eventually graduating from San Francisco State University in kinesiology, which is actually the exercise science degree, exercise movement. I started with the YMCA as a health and wellness director and found that working with the community, not just with the adults, but with the children in our community, really was more of a passion for me, and hence my movement up to an executive director position. As working with youth in San Francisco, it's not one person doing it by themselves. I am fortunate to be immersed in a community that has a lot of support from the YMCA of San Francisco, from the staff that work at the YMCA, and there are a few of them here today, that really are dedicated to the safety and the well-being of kids in our community, as well as our board, volunteer boards at the YMCA, and all the community collaborators in District 5. That includes Mo Magic, which Cheryl Davis really helps by bringing our groups together and making sure that all of our kids, not just kids in certain pockets, get all the help that they can get. And I'm just noticing today that there are 3 beacon centers that are actually recognized here. And I just want to say that the Buchanan YMCA is proud to be working with the Western Addition Beacon, which our director, Meisha Bell, is sitting back here. The Beacon Centers have done a great work for the city, and we are supported by DCYF, the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, and also the San Francisco Unified School District supports a lot of programs that we do. So it truly is a collaboration of people in the community and not just one organization or one person. So I just want to say thank you, Supervisor, for recognizing me, and a lot of kudos go to the rest of the community as well. Thank you.
All right, congratulations again, Rodney, and thank you again for your hard work in our community. Next up, Supervisor Campos from District 11.
Thank you, Madam President. District 9, but we'll take 11 too. That's another great district.
I'm sorry. District 9, I apologize. Supervisor
Does that mean
Campos.
that I get more time? No, I'm kidding. I don't want to get in trouble with President Breed, so I'll be very brief and to the point. There's nothing like work to actually demonstrate, how committed people are to a community. And ever since that we saw the integration of the entire portal into District 9, I've been impressed with the work that day in, day out is done by the Community Empowerment Center. So I would ask the center to please come up. We have here Teresa Duque, a number of volunteers and staff. They have made it a priority to make sure that the monolingual Chinese-speaking community that lives in this neighborhood, that their needs are addressed. This largely volunteer-run nonprofit provides community members with education, services, and referrals around issues such as crime prevention, human rights, family and career development, and workers' rights. They offer multiple job and life training services as well as ESL, computer skills, and even ballroom dancing. This center also regularly advocates on behalf of many members of the community, and every Saturday you see volunteers at the center working with Chinese-speaking seniors to translate forms and letters. By empowering people in this community, they are helping them have a voice in this city. So it is my honor today, as we recognize this very important month, to recognize the work and honor the work of the Community Empowerment Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor David Campos, and thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Teresa Duque, Executive Director of San Francisco Community Empowerment Center in Portola District at 279 San Bruno Avenue. SFCEC started out as a support group at 2008 and become a center at 2011. We have more, in our district, we have more than 40% of our populations are largely Chinese-speaking monolingual. We provide ESL classes and safety meeting. We focus on the basic needs and survival skill. We have a very large populations of elderly, and safety is their main concern. And with Supervisor David Campos' support, we held numerous of safety meeting. And by the way, we will have a safety meeting on May 17. Of this month is a Tuesday. We are here to urge the Board of Supervisors to hire more bilingual Asian police officers because we need them. We also notice a lot of new immigrants, they need job skills, and job opportunity are very, we are in crisis right now, housing crisis and, job crisis. A lot of people, they, like us, we don't have a job and we need to have train them, okay? I would like to thank all our dedicated volunteers, at here, especially like Audrey, come here. Come up here.
Hi.
Audrey has been a very dedicated, since we, for 6 years, every Saturday, she go there Saturday, for 6 years, nonstop, going there to help the community. Every Saturday for 6 years.
Hi, Board Supervisor. My name is Audrey Liang. I'm very happy to help the immigrants, and they have English-speaking people, and then they need help. And then I'm happy when they come into our center, ask for help. And then when I solve their problem, and then when they come out from the face, it's happy. Then I'm very happy. I feel I'm happy, and because they're very upset when they receive a letter from the government, from whatever, they don't understand. They have a worry about what is that? I don't understand, and then they come to our center. I help them. I explain to them with their language and with the native language, and then they will understand that they're happy, and then they come out, the face is happy. Then I'm very happy for that. That's what is pushed me to continue every Saturday to help them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Congratulations again, and thank you for being here. At this time, I'd like to call on Supervisor John Avalos, and thank you so much for allowing Supervisor Campos and I to recognize our honorees.
Thank you very much, President Breed. Colleagues, unfortunately my honorees can't be here today, but I do want to talk about the work that's happening with their involvement. I'm honoring members of the OMI Chinese community who are involved in creating an urban agricultural project on Brotherhood Way. The project is called Sisterhood Farms, and it's a project that has been in the making for about a couple years now. First initiated by Peter Varnett, who lives in the Brooks Park area of the OMI, and he's been working very closely with the Chinese community and other members of the community to look at creating a farm. Well, with the help of my office, with DPW and Rec and Park, as well as the Chinese Progressive Association, we've been able to engage a part of the community that heretofore has not really been actively involved in this part of San Francisco. And we have actually, with their participation, have increased the level of diversity that are of people who are involved in the farming project. And without their participation, it would be something vastly different, not serving a large number of people, but serving a small number of people who would be getting individual plots. With their participation, we've really broadened who can be involved in this urban agricultural project, and anyone who wants to be there can. And so with the participation of members of the Chinese community, with the support of Chinese Progressive Association, we're also looking at how we can expand what is possible for the city to provide for this part of San Francisco, including access to food, including more play structures and recreation programs and family support programs that draw generations together within the Chinese community. So I want to thank and honor Pei Zhuan Liu, Jing Zhen, and Karen Kwong, as well as the participation of Karen Eng and Emily Lee of the Chinese Progressive Association for their work in really lifting up a burgeoning civic participation effort in a part of San Francisco that has not had a history of large amount of participation, where we're actually going to be seeing a large amount of change, especially with the Merced development and changes that are being proposed for transportation in the area. These are folks that are now starting their commitment to shaping what the city is going to be like and how it's going to serve their community, and I think it's important that we recognize this work and honor them. So on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, again, I want to list the names: Pei Zhuan Liu, Xing Zheng, and Karen Kwong, as well as Tiffany Eng and Emily Lee. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Again, congratulations to all the honorees today. Supervisor Marr, did you want to say any final comments? Okay, with that, thank you all very much. We really appreciate all the work that you do to make our community better. Some amazing stories, some amazing work, and we're just really honored as members of the board to be able to just take a moment in time and honor that great work on behalf of the City and County of San Francisco. Thank you so much. Now, Madam Clerk, at this time, we will return to public comment. And so those members of the public who have not yet provided public comment, please come forward. You will have up to 2 minutes. Okay, please come forward.
Hi, my name is Larry Edmund Juicy, and I would like to talk about lately we had a black gay man stabbed to death in the District 6, and I've been told that if you're black or you're gay or your religion, that your life doesn't count as Black Lives Matter. And we need to know why that this young man was murdered in the TL, he was stabbed to death. Because I have something to read to you right here. I need to find it quickly. Yes, it's called "Is Gay the New Black?" Bennett and Molina interviewed gay African-American activist blogger Michael Crawford and attorney Rebecca Fisher about the intersection of race and sexuality. Okay, intersection of race and sexual orientation. Both Crawford and Fisher pointed out that defining gay as the new black is both over simplicity and divisive. They also noted that the flippant comparison seems to exclude LGBT African American people from the conversation completely, when they are the ones who most likely to serve as bridges between African American and the LGBT community. What we're asking is that we want gay people to stand with the Black Lives Matter, because we're seeing a record number of gays are being killed here in California, as well as blacks are being killed across California and the nation. because we think Martin Luther King, we come together. Sex and race come together, and we have a division where we're not coming out supporting each other, and we feeling the.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hello, my name is Merlin. I'm a San Francisco taxi driver. I came to talk about the Uber, Lyft, sidecar, and rideshare versus taxi. I mean, I want to say thank you for the taxi lanes. They're really awesome, and a lot of us really like them. But I want to just say, like, you know, the population in San Francisco has increased, and, you know, not everyone's riding bicycles. But, you know, the thing is like us taxi drivers, our pay has decreased dramatically, and, you know, like, us as an industry are regulated as far as our rates, who set those, you know, insurance, how the cabs are identified. But at the same time, you know, like Uber, Lyft, sidecar, rideshare, their drivers can come from any city, where us San Francisco cab drivers can only work in San Francisco, and Oakland cab drivers cannot come and work in SF. But, you know, it seems like it's kind of unfair that anybody who lives in the surrounding cities can get around, you know, being regulated by turning on an app and come and, you know, be a taxi for a day or on their vacation. You know, I understand, like, people want, you know, they're trying to fix problems with technology and stuff, but it's kind of, I think it's kind of a step back, because, you know, I attempted to go the rideshare route, and I've called Progressive, I've called Geico, I've called State Farm, and none of them offer their services in California yet. I'm not saying, you know, like, I'm just saying, you know, like, us taxi drivers have to have these regulations and these insurance policies and these high fees that these companies, like, we pay for medallions, but yet, you know, pieces of paper are given to cell phone users who just turn on an app, and, you know, their new career is what we do every day. And the worst part is, you know, like, they're not from, I mean, some are from San Francisco, but.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Alan Martinez. I'm here to support the campus's proposed moratorium on construction in the Mission. I was looking through the Eastern Neighborhoods Plan the other day, and it's become an absurd document. The goals and intentions of that document are in shambles. It has been a disaster for the Mission. During the long writing of the Eastern Neighborhoods Plan and the Market Octavia Plan, there were a variety of different sorts of moratoriums that were in place while the plan was being crafted. So I think it is reasonable to look at some forms of moratoriums and controls on construction while we rethink that plan. I think it does also bring up larger issues that when you spend 10 years writing a plan, how responsive can it really be to economic situations that can change year by year? So I really think this ought to be an opportunity to really rethink the planning process in general, because a plan that takes 10 years to write can't turn on a dime. There's also issues around CEQA. The surveys that were done in the Mission didn't take into account Latin American history. After the 19th century, new information has come to light, and I think that that's important and should inform whatever does happen with the Eastern Neighborhoods Plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Michael Lyon from the San Francisco Gray Panthers. I lived for 40 years in Mission Bernal Heights district. I recently had to move out for reasons that I was lucky I wasn't forced out. But I was, a little while ago, several months ago, I was supposed to meet somebody on the corner of 16th and Valencia, and the person was late, and so I was reading something and walking toward the place where I was supposed to meet him, and suddenly looked up from what I was reading, And I had no idea where I was. It was like I'd been picked up and put in a foreign city. And I had to look around and find a street sign to see where it was. And it was on Valencia near Mission. It wasn't just the buildings and the stores that were different, it was the people that were different. This area has just been, that area has been devastated. You know, we look back at what happened to blacks in San Francisco, who really were driven out. And we would say, anybody would say, never again, this can never happen again. And yet this is about what's going to be happening in the Mission, and it's got to stop.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. My name is Leslie Dutayandier. I'm a San Francisco resident native. I'd like to speak about the Federal Communication Commission. The FCC's present safety guidelines for radiation exposure was developed in the 1960s, not by health experts, but by and for industrial and military users. Thermal heating of human tissue was the standard used then and now. It's a valid standard when exposure is from X-rays, nuclear fallout, and radon. However, technology has greatly advanced since the 1960s. The public is now exposed to a different form of radiation, microwave radiation. Few people know that this radiation has scientific evidence of biological damage. Cellular antennas, Wi-Fi, and wireless devices all expose us to this type of non-thermal radiation, which currently the FCC has no safety guidelines for. In 2002, Norbert Hankin of the EPA Center for Risk Assessment, Radiation Protection Division, in a letter stated, quote, this is thermally based and does not apply to chronic non-thermal exposure situations. The FCC's exposure guideline is considered protective of effects arising from a thermal mechanism, but not from all possible mechanisms. Therefore, the generalization by many that the guidelines protect human beings from harm by any or all mechanisms is not justified. Federal health and safety agencies have not developed policies concerning possible risks from long-term non-thermal exposures. Since the United States has no safety standards for non-thermal radiation, the FCC allows for 100 million times more the microwave exposure to its population than the Austrian Medical Association recommends. San Francisco's push to expand Wi-Fi throughout public spaces, along with broadband to further extend Wi-Fi is...
Thank you, ma'am. Your time is up. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, I'm Sudie Scull, marriage and family therapist and certified nutritionist. Broadband fiber internet could be a smart way to go until further research reveals that Wi-Fi antennas can be attached to the system's cable. You end up with citywide Wi-Fi and yet another layer of microwave radiation. According to Harvard holistic and integrative MD and author Andrew Weil, microwave radiation is more toxic to biological life than any man-made carcinogen, including asbestos, lead, pesticides, or mercury. Non-ionizing microwave radiation is radiation. It tears apart chromosomal DNA, causing a dramatic increase in neurological diseases, autism, developmental disorders, and cancer. Long-term chromosomal damage cannot be repaired. In 2012, according to the Wall Street Journal, the rate of U.S. cancer, including skin cancer, was 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women. But it's stated that soon that statistic will reflect those men and women who face devastating, life-threatening cancer. The rate of cancer has increased in the same trajectory as cell phones, Wi-Fi, and smart meters have proliferated. How many people do each of you know who have recently died from cancer or are undergoing chemo and radiation treatment? I know 7 cancer victims who have died in the last year and 4 whose cancer has metastasized. Cancer is at epidemic proportions. We have a public health emergency, and yet most people are so addicted to their electronics that they prefer to stay in denial. Additionally, more and more people are becoming electromagnetically sensitive when they use their cell phone, Wi-Fi, or internet. Citywide Wi-Fi gives us no choice, and broadband does. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Tom Gilberti, 2000 South Beach Manor Apartments. I'm going to recommend an inconvenience for all of you. Take the elevators at Muni. Go out of your way. I know you took the pledge, but you might as well start, take the elevators. Castro, Church, Van Ness, but Civic Center, Powell. Go out of your way and try and ride them. And I'm not faulting the janitor service. They're used as bathrooms. The mechanics say the doors are become unrepairable because of the urine. There are bathrooms down there, but I believe it's federal that they won't open it. So it's going to be inconvenient. But also at the same time, take another BART and get off at Ashby or Rockridge and see what elevators look like. And we use them a lot. So I'm going to recommend an inconvenience to you guys. Next, on the buses, Genentech, Google, if they're not going to be wheelchair accessible, we fine them $10,000 a stop. 4 stops, that's $40,000. 2 trips a day, that's $80,000. 300 trips a year. We're talking 24%, $240 million on $1 billion. We're talking money. But if it's a $10 billion company, it becomes 2.4%. Money. It's a nuisance factor. Maybe they will get them fixed.Maybe they can hire wheelchair people. On the cabs, $25,000 a week turns out to be $100,000 a month, 12 months.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public that would like to provide public comment at this time? Sir, you already spoke. Thank you. Seeing none, public comment is closed. Madam Clerk, can you please read the adoption without committee reference?
Items 20 through 23 are being considered for immediate adoption without committee reference. A single roll call vote may enact these items. If a member objects, a matter can be removed and considered separately.
Supervisor Kim?
Thank you. I would like to sever item 20.
Okay. Supervisor Cohen?
Thank you. I too would like to sever item 20.
Okay, perfect. So on the remaining items 21 through 23, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Christensen?
Aye.
Christensen, aye. Supervisor Cohen?
Aye.
Cohen, aye. Supervisor Farrell? Farrell, aye. Supervisor Kim?
Aye.
Kim, aye. Supervisor Marr? Marr, aye. Supervisor Tang?
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Wiener?
Aye.
Wiener, aye. Supervisor Yee?
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Avalos?
Aye.
Avalos, aye. Supervisor Breed?
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Campos? Campos, aye. There are 11 ayes.
Those items are adopted and approved unanimously. Madam Clerk, can you please read item number 20?
Item 20 is a resolution to support the implementation of the 22 Fillmore Transit Priority Project and to urge the United States Department of Transportation to approve the 2015 Tiger 7 grant application submitted by the Municipal Transportation Agency.
Supervisor Kim?
Thank you. I am in support of this measure as an author. I have a minor amendment to make, which is that this grant application is not for $20,000, but for $20 million. Small oversight. And so I'd like to make an amendment on page 1, line 8, whereas SFMTA's $20 million Tiger 7 grant application request. And then again, this typo showed up on page 3, line 18, again changing 20,000 to 20 million.
Okay, before we move forward with the approval of the amendment, Mr. City Attorney, can you please clarify whether or not we can still discuss this or move this item forward in the imperative agenda?
Deputy City Attorney John Givner, you can discuss the item today, make the amendment, and continue it until next week's meeting when you can finally pass it.
Okay.
And Madam President, just as a point of information, had I known that that was the actual amount of the item, we would have requested that it be sent to committee and not on this section of the agenda.
Okay, and so is Supervisor Kim, for clarity, is there a timeline on when this item needs to be passed?
Yeah. There is not, but I would ask Nicole Wheaton at the mayor's office to respond to that question.
Okay. Ms. Wheaton?
Thank you, Supervisors. Nicole Wheaton from Mayor Lee's office through the President. I think we are in a position to move this application forward in about a month. So I think if this is on next week's board agenda, that is fine.
Perfect.
Okay. Good. So let me take the amendments from Supervisor Kim. Supervisor Kim has made a motion to amend. Is there a second? Seconded by Supervisor Campos. Can we take the amendments without objection? Without objection, the amendments pass. Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, I just wanted to talk a little bit about item 20. I'm supportive of this item because the 16th Street project is incredibly important to the increasing transportation capacity and connectivity to the southeastern neighborhoods. However, I did want to state for the record that it is my understanding that MTA remains committed to continuing the public engagement process we have started with the neighborhoods. MTA has assured me the submission of this grant application doesn't limit their ability to respond to the neighborhood and neighbor suggestions about designs for these improvements. And I just want to bring MTA up to just to make sure I understand this correctly.
Good afternoon, members of Board of Supervisors. My name is Cathal Hennessy. I'm the project manager for the 22 Fillmore Transit Priority Project along 16th Street, and Supervisor Cohen, you're absolutely correct. We will continue the outreach. We've already started this outreach as of January, and we actually have an upcoming community meeting on May 16th in the Notre Dame Plaza, which is May 16th at 10 a.m., and all are welcome to attend. But yes, we are more than willing to work with the community and all different merchant associations and community associations and your office as we work through this process.
Great. Thank you very much. No questions.
Okay. So, colleagues, unfortunately, since it is a substantive amendment, it sounds as if we need to move this item to next month's agenda. So with that...
Madam President, I think it's a one-week continuance.
A one-week continue... Okay. Thank you.
To May 12th.
Okay. Thank you. So is there a motion to continue this item as amended to the May 12th meeting? Motioned by Supervisor Cohen, seconded by Supervisor Kim. We can take this without objection. Without objection, this item as amended is continued to our May 12th of 2015 meeting. Madam Clerk, can you please read the in memoriams?
Today's meeting will be adjourned in memory of the following beloved individual. At the suggestion of Supervisor Tang, on behalf of the entire Board of Supervisors, for the late Mrs. Sandra Rosenfield.
Okay, colleagues, this brings us to the end of our agenda today. Madam Clerk, is there any further business before us?
That concludes our business for today.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are adjourned.